Hello and welcome to the Speaking Frankly Football Show. I'm Frank Hughes, the chairman of Skelmersdale United Football Club, and alongside me is my co-host and passionate press officer AJ the Jet. Not that being involved with the football club is a prerequisite for hosting a football podcast, but it certainly helps. We are ready to dive headfirst into the vibrant world of non-league football in the Northwest, and we might even take a moment to discuss some of the bigger headlines in the sport. We'll explore life in the Northwest counties, bring you interviews with well-known faces in the league, and analyse how local teams are performing while making bold predictions for their upcoming matches. Nothing is off the limits here. We'll be diving into all kinds of topics, including complicated refereeing decisions and regulations that often leave fans perplexed. We want to hear from you too. This is your show, so don't hesitate to reach out with topics you want us to tackle. Let's get this conversation started and enjoy every single moment. We are speaking frankly. Hello and welcome to the 18th episode of the Speaking Frankly Football Show, and a warm welcome to my co-host AJ.
Thank you, Frank. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning into episode 18 of the Speaking Frankly Football Show. Now, this week on the show, we're going to go through our usual Northwest Counties Football League roundup off the back of the Groundhop weekend. We are going to be looking at, results from up and down the Northwest Counties as a whole, including all the shocks and all the controversials that happened over the course of that wonderful Groundhop long weekend. We're then going to be speaking to Carl Taylor, who's the joint manager of Chadderton Football Club. We're then going to be speaking to Tony Young, who is the face of Blyth Spartans fans at the minute for his viral video of him ranting, in inverted commas, to his players, and he'll go into more detail about that during his interview on the show, and then we'll finish up as we usually do with the expert analysis and predictions from the fixtures ahead.
Well, we got somebody coming in to do that?
Yes, we do. Yeah, Jeff Stelling's on his way now.
Is he? Oh, well, that's fortunate, isn't it? Listen, we might reverse those interviews. I think we might do Tony Young first and then do Carl Taylor afterwards.
That's fine. They're both coming on the show.
Yeah, they're both coming on the show.
Yeah,
and listen, it's a bumper episode, so we'll have to get cracking.
Yes, we will.
Listen, I think the biggest shocks for us came with the larger crowds in the Groundhop.
Yeah.
Far more than we certainly anticipated. Yeah. I don't know whether Chris Baresi would agree, or whether he anticipated the gates would be significantly higher than I certainly expected, but I predicted 1,200 at Droylsden, and I wasn't that far away. 1,184. Do you remember what you predicted?
I think I predicted about 800-900 maybe.
Oh, it's not bad. It wasn't a bad show,
give or take. Yeah. Actually, no. You predicted 1,200. I predicted 1,100. So actually, we weren't that far away.
That's even better.
At all. But to contextualise it,
that's a big word for me.
Well, quite. It was the Friday night fixtures, which entailed Ramsbottom against FC St Helens. I predicted 350, and the gate was 520. So it really shows how little I know about Groundhop Weekend and just how big an effect.
What did I predict on that one?
For Chadderton, for Rami.
Rami, yeah. Where is it? Oh, I can't even find it now. That's a good start to the show, isn't it? Where is it? Oh yeah, of course. So I predicted 450, which is not a bad guess when you when you think about it. Well, listen, fantastic anyway. But Daisy Hill and Aaron Hunt, that wasn't part of the Groundhop, was it? But after all the social media influencing he did, and a fantastic job he's done at building their game up against Atherton LR, they managed to get a massive gate of 857. Yeah. I predicted 350, so I was way out on that one.
You were. I don't think anybody will have anticipated a gate of 850, not least the local residents around the around the Plum Factory Stadium where Daisy Hill play, because we've been there. It's a deeply residential area. Parking will have been an absolute nightmare for fans and locals alike. But what a good turnout, and it may very well be the pivot on which Daisy Hill start to now build a bit of a reputation as maybe an up-and-coming giant within the non-league circuit.
Yeah,
interesting times there.
Most definitely. Listen, as I say, he's done a tremendous job. Have you watched any of his video blogs at all?
No, I haven't. It's the kind of thing that I'm not remotely interested in, unfortunately. I didn't even do it for market research.
Well, I have. You see, and I didn't know. I think I've already alluded to it before. I didn't think I knew who Aaron Hunt was until I knew he took over Daisy Hill, and then it reminded me that I'd actually seen him on his video blog where he goes to the worst hotels in the country and gives them a review. Somebody sent him to the Grand Hotel in Llandudno, which is just alongside the pier.
Yep.
And listen, no disrespect to the Grand Hotel. Somebody obviously sent them along and said it's got one of the worst ratings going, but credit to Aaron and his two friends that went along. They said it was far more far better than what had been mentioned.
Yeah.
What was more interesting about it was they went out for a. I don't even know why I mentioned this because it's not even football related, is it? But they went out for a bite to eat and a few drinks, and then when they got back to the hotel, they decided to have a game of hide and seek. Now,
okay.
The Grand Hotel is quite spooky to say the least when you're trying to hide in the depths and the bowels of the hotel. But it made up for a really interesting viewing. But like I say, he's obviously doing something right because he's attracted all this attention, and of course, Angry Ginge was there as well. You probably know Angry Ginge more than you would Aaron.
Yeah.
Do you don't know Angry Ginge? You've heard of him? No. Well, this is the thing. You see, I can't understand how, being 57 years of age, I think I'm still 57 yet. I'm 58 this year. I think. I can't understand how people can make a living out of streaming themselves playing FIFA. Now, listen. I'm sure there's more strings to his bow than just that, but Angry Ginge seems to be making a relatively good financial career out of doing something similar to that. And listen, as I say, there's probably more to it than that. But I have to say, it's certainly the way forward. And we'd be speaking to Tony from Blyth Spartans, who would like a big investor at the football club, so we can shine a little bit of light on them, and hopefully somebody will come along first to help Skem, and second to go and help our friend in Blyth.
we'll get them forming an orderly queue.
Yes. Yeah. So listen, we'll move on to real serious football matters now, and we'll start where we normally start, and that's the Premier Division of the North West Counties. Don't know whether there was many shock results. Ramsbottom probably let a draw slip from their hands as FC St Helens managed to sneak an injury time winner. They were 2-0 up at one stage as well.
They were 2-0 up well into the 50th minute. What's even more interesting about that game is that it was 0-0 at half time.
Right, I didn't know that.
It was 0-0 and. Ramsbottom sort of go 2-0 up quite quickly, but then FC St Helens get one back within 5 minutes, and then grab a winner in sort of 3 minutes from time. It's absolutely astonishing result if you're an FC St Helens fan. But what it does mean is that Bury are well and truly in the driving seat as far as that automatic promotion spot is concerned.
One of the games they had in hand, they played on Tuesday night, and it was another defeat at the hands of Padiham. So you kind of feel really sorry for Steve. That's 3 defeats on the trot. Padiham have won the last 4 games, taking them 5 points clear of West Didsbury in 5th position.
Yeah, they do. I mean, this one was probably less of a surprise than we imagined. Padiham on a tremendous run, as what we've already alluded to in the past. We're sort of big fans of Padiham and how they're going about their business, but Steve Wilts will be bitterly disappointed from that one. That was one of his games in hand. He's got one game in hand left on Bury, but even if he wins that, it will only close the points gap to 7 points. And Lower Breck, who are sitting in 3rd, are just 2 points behind Ramsbottom now, but have played 2 games less than them and 3 games less than Bury, so they can throw themselves right into the automatic promotion mix if they take that game in hand.
And I did say, didn't I, on the previous podcast, that I did think that the game on the Friday night at Ramsbottom would be one of those psychological moments, because if they lost, it would put Bury in a more settled frame of mind, and that's certainly to be the point in question, because they battered Remy the following day 7-0 in front of a crowd of 3,315. Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely stunning turnout, and Bury really did hit the traps early. They were 5-0 up at half time. Got a 6 very, very quickly in the second half. I mean, I don't think there was no real way back for Remy once Lewis Byrne scored after half an hour to put them 3-0 up. So the psychological advantage is very much with Bury at the minute.
And I believe Ramsbottom, shortly after that win, they switched off their replies on social media.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit noisy between Ramsbottom and Bury. Obviously, Bury fans doing all the talking at the minute, but there have been historical exchanges between the two when Bury have failed to get a result.
Would you say it's the non-league version of City Man United? Within sort of touching distance of each other, Bury and Ramsbottom?
I think City and United still hold some level of respect for each other, whereas I'm not entirely sure that Bury and Ramy do. I think you're probably looking at City Liverpool in the last few years. The intense rivalry, overcasting any kind of respect that the two have for each other.
It's a pity, really, because they should have a great amount of respect. Ramsbottom have done exceptionally well, and Bury, they've got back into business again, and they are actually doing the business.
Very much so.
Like you said, 10 points ahead. It certainly looks as though it's without a shadow of doubt theirs to lose now, isn't it?
100%.
I think we're looking at the
champions-elect.
Yeah, we're looking at the playoffs then, aren't we? But listen, Earlham battered Chadderton 6-0. We'll be speaking to
Carl Taylor.
We're speaking to Carl Taylor in the third part of the show. I think it was. I'm trying to think of which part of the show it will be. John Johnston scored 4 of these goals, a 9-minute hat-trick. Fantastic accomplishment, but way behind the fastest ever hat-trick, Magnus Arvidsson, 89 seconds, scored 3 goals in a minute and a half. For Hasselholm against Landskrona in the Swedish second-tier match in 1995. There's a bit of a mouthful there.
Your pronunciations are taking a beating today.
Yeah, well, I'm Scouse. What can I say? Listen, I'm not even going to attempt to use a Swiss accent either. I'm not going to go all Joey Barton on your ear either. But listen, it made me think about the fastest amateur hat-trick. Alex Tor completed a hat-trick in 70 seconds for pub team Rawson Springs in a match in the Meadowhall, Sheffield and District Under-23 Amateur English Sunday League in 2013.
Okay, that's a goal every 23.3 seconds.
Well, I'm glad you worked that up because I didn't have a clue. But listen, that's a fantastic achievement. It'll probably never be in the record books, that anyway. But so the fastest hat-trick in Premier League history goes to
Sadio Mane.
2 minutes and 56 seconds. That's amazing in itself. I always thought the Robbie Fowler hat-trick back in its day was...
it was. I think there was only a handful of seconds difference between them. I think it was only about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And it was Fowler's for a long time. I think Mane eclipsed it playing for... I'm sure he was playing for Southampton at the time. I don't think he was a Liverpool player by then.
Oh, right. I didn't know that.
No, I think he was at Southampton when it happened.
Yeah, so back to Johnston. He's now scored 17 in all competitions, and I think in next week's episode we'll start looking at a few of the goal scorers.
I think we really should.
I think we need to, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. It's a big competitive topic of discussion there.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to shift over to Cone as they beat Charnock Richard 3-2. A late goal from Jack McMinley, securing the 3 points for Cone to boost their survival prospects. So they're now 4 points clear of Squires Gate at the bottom and 3 clear of Prestwich Hayes, having played 1 game less than Prestwich and 2 games less than Squires Gate. So their destiny very much in their hands, and that's an enormous boost against a Charnock Richard team who at one point, we were figuring for the playoffs, but they've dropped off unfortunately quite significantly since the turn of the year, and now down in 15th place.
Yeah, listen, Colne, going back to Colne, they always seem to do the business when it gets tough.
Yeah, they really do. Since they brought in the new management, everything's kind of looked really quite optimistic for them. I didn't think for a second though that they'd get out of the relegation trouble, but they look like they may have done it with about 8 games or so to spare. They still have an opportunity to push ahead on the teams above them. South, Liverpool and Pilks aren't out of reach by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, credit and kudos goes to them. Prestwich took a point at Abbey Hay in front of 610 people, which was part of the Groundhop weekend. That still gives Prestwich a glimmer of hope of avoiding the drop, but it is a glimmer.
It is a glimmer, yeah. You got to feel the momentum's all with Cone at the minute. So all Prestwich Hayes can do kind of focus on themselves and hope for a bit of luck elsewhere.
Bearscough beat the Alaman 2-1 in front of a healthy crowd of 290. I'm assuming it was probably boosted by the early kick-off of 1:30, and I think you remarked last week because I couldn't understand why it was kicking off so early, but I'm assuming it was due down to the fact that Alaman had to travel back to the Alaman.
Yes, it did, yeah. So you can imagine that Alaman will have brought a pretty healthy crowd along with them over to mainland shores, but they were left disappointed as Bearscough won 2-1 with a goal from Sam Turner and then a goal from James Salkeld early on in the second half. But a turnout of nearly 300 over at Bearscough, that's really good.
I know it was exceptionally busy because my daughter Elizabeth works behind the bar there, and she said they were selling booze left, right and centre. Absolutely
great turnout for Bearscough on and off the pitch there. Fair play.
And that's back-to-back wins, I think, for them, isn't it?
Yes.
Like that, if I'm right.
I think you might be right, yeah. It does their lower middle of the park, as far as the table's concerned. But
unbeaten in 3 now.
Unbeaten in 3, starting to string together some results. Maybe they can... they certainly may be able to push on Glossop North End. They're level on points now, and Bearscough got a game in hand on them.
Talking about Glossop and our friend Richard Rodey, Glossop lost again, and they've only won once in the last 6. I think he'll be really disappointed with the form they've shown in recent times.
Yeah, this one was a little bit more understandable. It was West Didsbury and Chorlton, who we know are going to bring an awful lot of noise, are going to bring an awful lot of good skill and talent. They are in the playoffs, and that was a ground hop in front of a crowd of 830. That is an excellent.
Amazing.
That is an excellent turnout, and it does Glossop North End no harm off the pitch.
No,
not at all.
So huge kudos must go towards Chris Baresi and Groundhop UK because they're doing a magnificent job of putting the non-league football in the spotlight and increasing the gates and putting huge coffers into the putting huge pound coins into the coffers.
Yeah, absolutely. So all across the Groundhop turnouts, we were seeing massive attendances. So obviously, we already talked about Droylsden being 1,184. Glossop was 830. Stockport Town versus Cheadle Town was 435. New Mills versus Cheadle Heath Nomads was 558. And then Ramsbottom United versus FC St Helens was a crowd of 551. So it's absolutely stunning job there by Chris Baresi, who we interviewed on about episode 12 or 13 of the show. He's absolutely making waves there with his Ground Up initiative.
And this is up and down the country. It's not just localised, it's all over the place.
It really is all over the place. So if you're listening to this show in Kent or in Sussex, there is a ground hop available near to you. You just have to find out when it's being played and which teams are being featured in it, and then go to groundhop.org.uk, sign up for it, and then Chris will email you with when the ground hop is coming to your local area.
That man is certainly a legend, so big shout out to Chris.
Enormous.
Well done, and to all the ground hoppers who never cease to amaze me.
No, and we certainly hope that you had a good time while you were out there.
By all accounts, they did.
Certainly did. Now then, we're going to move south, and I think there were two sort of quite big, quite substantial shocks here. The first one being Alsager Town, who we've noted have been in free fall recently, but they secured a 3-0 win over Allscott Heath, mainly because Heath Alsager were away from home, but now they're kicking back towards the playoffs and sort of breathing down the neck of Cheadle Heath Nomads, who themselves lost 2-0 away to New Mills.
And we also have a game in hand.
And they have a game in hand as well. So all positives pointing to Alsager there, particularly when Cheadle Heath Nomads already lost. Abbey Hulton United scored in the 97th minute penalty to salvage a draw, and Sandbach and Stafford both lost. So it was a really good weekend for Alsager there.
Runcorn Town battered second place Stafford 5-1 away from home. Not so much a surprise in terms of Runcorn winning, because they've proven to be more than a capable side under the joint management team of Darren Moore and Liam Page. We spoke to Darren earlier on in the series, but perhaps the size of defeat was a bit of a shock, as Stafford were unbeaten in the last 7 games.
Yeah, it absolutely was, and they've proved themselves more than capable of being a potential powerhouse within the Northwest Counties South. But that was an astonishing result there from sort of both ends of the spectrum, really. I'm just trying to find. There it is. Yeah. So shout out to Jamie Appley and Matt Vickers, who both grabbed 2 each on their way to that win. But on the other end of the attendances scale, that one was probably, I think, by far the lowest of the weekend. Just 75 turned out there. 64 turned out to see Allscott Heath against Alsager Town. So some really quite low turnouts across the Northwest Counties South. Why do you think that is?
I've no idea. Listen, you get to that end of the season where there's very little to... Was that at Stafford or Runcorn?
It was at Stafford.
It was at Stafford. Maybe there's a lack of faith in... I can't understand that now. I mean, I did look at that and think, that's really, really strange. Yeah. Maybe people know a little bit more about what's going on behind the scenes, because they seem to have They seem to be struggling, don't they?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, they're certainly struggling. They've been unbeaten in their last 7 games, but it was nothing compared to the kind of the tearaway act that they were performing at the beginning of the season when it looked like they might win the league at a canter. But now they're in second place. They are 6 points adrift of Winsford United, who are in pole position to claim the title here, and they've now got Sandbach United breathing down their necks with just a 4-point difference between them. So I think they're certainly secured for the playoffs, but they'll be bitterly disappointed at not being able to take the title, if indeed it does pan out the way it's looking at this moment in time.
Did we mention Market Drayton there?
We did not.
We did not. They unfortunately lost against Asheville, 3-1.
Yeah.
Bad result for Dan Dawson. He'll be really disappointed there.
Yeah, he will have been. Yeah, I think it's a difficult one for Dan. He's, there have been some results that he's had really that have.
Just getting that consistency.
It's getting the
consistency. It's not happening at the moment, is it?
So they hammered Stockport Georgians 6-2 the other week. Before that they were on the. They hammered Wolverhampton Sporting Community 7-0. But on the flip side, they've lost 3-1 away at Asheville in front of a reasonable crowd as well, 107.
Yeah, listen, they're not in trouble, are they? So
no, they're not. But
from that perspective, they're probably looking at building on, for next season.
Yeah, he's got to. I think I just
got a
imagine.
bit of work to do.
Yeah, I just imagine Dan would have wanted to build up a bit of a head of steam going into the new season, try and retain as much of his squad as what he could do, to try and push the promotion prospects here.
And Shawbury lifted themselves off the bottom of the table with a 1-0 win over Barnton. I don't know whether we predicted the.
I certainly didn't. No, I predicted that Barnton were going to win that one, but no, it does mean that Barnton are just that little bit closer to the bottom 3. So Folymere, Shawbury and Wolves all have games in hand on Barnton, with just 8 points separating 14th Barnton and bottom Wolves. So that congestion that's developing down there in the relegation zone is going to be a real attraction towards as we make our way towards the end of the season. Now each team have got sort of maybe half a dozen games left to try and scramble to safety.
And we're going to make a real effort to get further down south and get more people on the show.
Yes, we will.
We definitely will.
We promise. Yeah. So we've had Folymere, we've had Market Drayton Town, and have we had we haven't had Alsager, have we?
No, I think we're going to have Alsager soon, but we've certainly had Runcorn Town, haven't we?
We have. Yes.
So is that rounds up the Southern Division? I think
it does. Yeah. Sandbach United were the victims of a 3-1 loss to Stockport Georgians in front of the Groundhopper boosted 532. Now it doesn't really affect Sandbach's prospects for promotion. They're firmly within the playoffs. But with Winsford not having played this weekend, I don't believe, and with Stafford slipping up, they'll have been very disappointed that they didn't take anything from that game.
Listen, the other thing is they'll all be jockeying for positions now because, in terms of Sandbach, pretty much guaranteed a spot in the playoffs, but then you'd be looking at who you want to play in the semi-finals. So if you finish second or third, you're guaranteed home advantage. But if you finish fourth or fifth, you're not. But then you'd probably be looking, well, do you want to finish second so you play Cheadle Heath Nomads, or do you want to finish third because you play Abbey Hulton? I would have thought Sandbach want to get into second place.
Yeah, I think so. It's. I don't want to say that any team is sort of throwing results just to try and.
No, I don't think anybody will throw results, but I think they will keep a keen eye on what's beneficial for them, shall we say?
Yeah. Now we'll move on to the north. Obviously, we were in action, which we'll come to later. The biggest ground hop of the weekend, and indeed the biggest crowd across the weekend itself, went to Droylsden, 1,184, witnessing them edging a 3-2 win over Darwin, and arguably one of the games of the weekend as far as our league was concerned.
Yeah, well, we'd have picked that game if we would have been going to one, wouldn't we? I think that would have been a nice one to go to.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were in talks to kind of go on the Sunday. So on the one hand, we'd have had this amazing Droylsden-Darwin showdown that finished 3-2. On the other hand, we'd have watched Abbey Hay contest a 0-0 draw against... who was it that they played? Was it Squires Gate? No, it wasn't. It was Prestwich Hayes. Yeah. Prestwich Hayes. So we'd have had a 0-0 and a 3-2 had we gone on Sunday.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, it does very much cement Droylsden's own playoff ambitions. They're now sitting in third, probably quite comfortably, as Holker Old Boys dropped points. Excellent turnout, and a really tricky opposition there with Darwin themselves just outside the playoff spots.
Isn't it rather bizarre though? We're talking now, it's early March, and what you say, Droylsden pretty much secured the place in the playoffs. Only AFC Blackpool could catch them, but they'd have to overcome the Bloods' 19-goal margin as it stands right now.
Yeah.
But to be talking about it in March?
Yeah, I mean, Droylsden are third for one. They are 8 points clear of Exton Villa, who are in fourth. Given their consistency, you can't really see them dropping that many points that both Exton and Holker would overhaul them, and then Darwin themselves. So Darwin are the first team outside the playoffs. They're on 46 points, Droylsden on 62. So that's a 16-point swing. I don't know if it's mathematically possible, but I certainly don't see it occurring.
No.
Anyway, the surprise result across the weekend was Ashton Town's 2-1 home defeat to Route 1 Rovers, which will have not pleased Kevin Towie at all. I mean, his team are in 10th, but a couple of good results, and they themselves would have looked at the playoffs as being a bit of an ambition there. There's not much to separate 10th placed Ashton Town to 6th placed Darwin, just 6 points. Yeah. So, but no, two goals from Route 1 Rovers, I think, within the first half. Yeah, they do start strong, do Route 1 Rovers. So they were 2-0 up at half time, and it was a penalty that got Ashton back into the game, but not enough to secure them a point. Healthy crowd though, 201.
And Route 1 Rovers can frustrate, can't they? Because they're very much like to describe it, a five-a-side team. They play it off the park, don't they? In very small areas.
Yeah, very compact. They do an awful lot of passing.
And they can run.
And they can run. They're as fit as any team I've ever seen in this division. And so Ashton Town have proved. I suppose for us, the result that we will have been looking at was Garstang versus Thornton Cleveland. You had doubts over which direction this game would go, and I think you prompted for a draw. I said it was going to be Thornton Cleveland, and I was correct on this occasion, but I was very grateful to be correct on this occasion, as Thornton Cleveland came out as 2-0 winners over a Garstang side who the Thornton Cleveland's manager said they were made to work for that result, and I've no doubt about it.
Yeah, there was no doubt about it at all. Nelson beat Steeton 1-0 to maintain a 7-point lead over Atherton LR. Now, as mentioned earlier, Atherton LR beat Daisy Hill in front of a massive crowd.
Yep.
They still have 3 games in hand over Nelson, but you'd soon have the points in the bag.
You would absolutely have had the points in the bag, yeah. So Nelson, as we say, a 7-point advantage, which can be overturned if Atherton LR win all their games in hand. Now, I remember Tommy saying at the start of the season when we played Nelson that he believes that we've been playing the champions-elect. I think Atherton LR will have something to say that, but it's looking very likely But with each passing week, that Nelson might hold on to this, and more pressure starts to then draw on Atherton Allar. They're not winning games at a canter like what they used to do. They're winning by maybe 1 or 2 goals at most. So,
and if you're going to speculate, who would you say out of the the 4 spots in the playoffs, who goes into that the strongest if that's the way it remains?
If it's the way it remains, I think Droylsden are probably the team to be looking at as going in as the strongest. They're on a brilliant run. They're backed enormously by the travelling faithful. They're looking at right now. If it all stays the same, they've got home advantage. Everything kind of points to them really.
But you wouldn't write off Holker Old Boys or even Darwin if they managed to scrape in there, and even like I said before, AFC Blackpool still got still got a good chance of getting in the playoffs.
They do, yeah. I mean, Holker Old Boys' results haven't been fantastic of late, and their latest one was a 1-1 draw against McGull. It's a strong result for McGull, but if you're Holker Old Boys, you'll have found that particularly frustrating to contend with. Particularly now that they are only occupying the final playoff berth and are looking over their shoulder, as you say, at Darwin, who are 7 points behind. There is a bit of comfort knowing that they've played 2 games more, but then AFC Blackpool, 2 points back on Darwin, so they still could catch them.
Back to the battle at the top. Nelson play LR at home at the end of this month.
Do they? Right, so...
it could be an exciting finish, whatever way.
It could really be an exciting finish, and it would be a massive psychological boost to Nelson if they were able to do the double over Atherton LR. I don't believe any team has managed to do that. Indeed, Atherton have only lost 2 games it's 4 games all season, but even so, that's a terrific advantage if you can carve it out. It gives you an awful lot of breathing space.
Yeah. So where are we now? We're with us, of course. We lost 4-0. I have to say, to a great outfit, Exton Villa.
I commented on that game. I was running commentary, and I noted that they were just such a terrific passing outfit. Were Exton Villa, they were able to move the ball across the pitch, at will. They had really willing running fullbacks on both flanks who were able to kind of carve us open down the wings. Dan Singleton was ever a willing runner in the in attack. He had a goal chalked off for offside, but could have easily had a couple more had his shooting been a bit more precise. They were a terrific outfit. They were, and they passed us off the park. Really, we just really struggled to get near the ball.
It has to be said though, a couple of minutes before Luca Boone's sending off, they've gone one up. Defensive mistake again, I think. How do you see the Luca Boone sending off? I felt as though it was harsh. I've looked at the zoomed in VO coverage of it. He's lashed out. The very faintest of legs has gone up. They're out of play. I don't think that helped. The fact he's getting pushed out.
Yeah.
He basically pushed into the advertising hoardings, and he's lashed out. By the letter of the law, yes, the referee should send him off, you'd arguably say, but can't referees use their discretionary powers anymore?
They can use their discretionary powers. I don't think this referee was ever going to. So it was, this referee booked Brogan Clark about 15 minutes prior for a strong challenge. He did win the ball, but his follow through connected quite harshly with one of their players, and he was booked for it. And I think that very much set the precedent for how he was going to referee this game. Unfortunately, in that moment, I don't think Luca was thinking about that one. I think he was just thinking about how wound up he was at the opposition player who's wound him up to the point that he's lashed out. I mean, he's a young kid. His temperament has been noted before because he was sin-binned against Garstang 2 weeks prior.
But the argument is, if they're going to dish out easy red cards like that, if you're trying to get people to respect referees, then you're not really going down the right line, are you, with a 17-year-old?
No.
I'd have put an arm around him. I'd have said, listen, by the letter of the law, I should send you off, but I'm going to give you a yellow and hope that you learn.
I would have wanted the referee to at least have, given Luca the opportunity to kind of atone from that error.
At that stage, though, I mean...
It was so early on in the game. It was
it was the 30th minute, and so we've had to play an hour with 10 men, so the game's lost. We've had a couple of opportunities ourselves before they've scored, and they fell to Luca.
We were still in that game up until the 30th minute. Joe Barlow's had a great effort pushed away by their goalkeeper, and then Luca Boone, he was put through, but their defence has covered really well and kind of forced him wide. So unfortunately, he's kind of had to recycle play. But the onuses were there that we could have got something from this.
But yet again, we've mentioned it before in games, and although this wasn't as tight as we wanted it to be, there were some good shifts put in there.
Yeah,
some good performances.
Yeah, there was some good running, and there was some good performances from Boots. So the defence, as stretched as it was, it did absolutely everything that it could. There were no mistakes in regards to the first two goals. They were both headed goals by the Exton centre half, Ethan Dar. There's not an awful lot that you could have done about either of them, really. I think the third one, Cahoon, their captain, on the edge of the area, sort of scrambles one in, from a bit of range. You could have argued that they close him down a bit quicker, and then their last goal was another header, at the back post. So marking, again, you could have looked at the marking there, but otherwise, there was really not an awful lot that we could have done against Exton when we'd gone down to 10 men. And we've said it before that they've got an established side. These players have been here for all season, all really established, all played, in games into numbering 20s and 30s.
Yeah, they're an established team. They were in the playoffs last season, weren't they, as well?
Yeah, they were, and they're very much, looking like they could do that again this time around. So
what surprised me, by the way, was I didn't know, because it was there last season when they had the grass pitch. Yeah. I didn't know that all that money had been spent on a plastic, on a synthetic pitch, and everything else had been new fencing, stand being put somewhere else. The
clubhouse.
The clubhouse has always been there, but the hospitality suite as well, that was an addition. That was great. And so I was a bit shocked when I seen the synthetic pitch, but I had a nice conversation with the chairman there, Mark McDonnell, hoping to have him on a future show, because he spoke really well, and he'd probably explain how they managed to secure the finances for that. Yeah. So I think we've come to the end of part one. Yeah. So in the second part of the show, we'll be talking to Tony Young, the Blyth Spartans supporter who tore a strip out of his team as they got battered 5-1 at Bamber Bridge. We'll follow that up with an interview with Carl Taylor, the joint manager of Chadderton. We'll discuss their season so far, and also speak about an episode of racism at the end of their game at Lower Breck the other week. So that it will be the controversial issues will be included in the interview. So we're going to go to a commercial break now, and when we come back, we'll speak to Tony Young. Special shout out to all the businesses that support Skelmersdale United Football Club: Origin Sign Company, T&W Garners, 7PDS, Skem Express Cars 5005, Lease Car UK, RNB Auto Centre, SB Skills Solutions, and Hey Presto Web Design. Thank you to everyone who donates to the club. supports our race nights, raffles, and the lottery bonus ball scheme, and of course the last man standing. A special thanks to those who organise these fundraising events, especially the incredible Lee Davis and Lucas Berquist. To all who stand by us both on and off the field, we are truly grateful. If you wish to sponsor the show, please contact me at chairman.skemutdfc@gmail.com or call me on 07766 054 548. All proceeds will go to Skelmersdale United Football Club. Thank you for your unwavering support. Hello and welcome to the second part of the Speaking Frankly football show. On Saturday, Blyth Spartans were battered 5-1 away at Bamber Bridge. Tony Young, who's been supporting the club for over 40 years, decided to give the players a piece of his mind at the end of the game. Someone recorded it and then the video soon went viral. It's attracted the attention of every football fan up and down the country, particularly disenfranchised supporters who feel they are taken for granted by their club's owners. Even Joey Barton has had his say on the matter. However, the question that goes unanswered is, did he go too far when he criticised the players, the management team and the club chairman? Last season, they were relegated from the National League North, and this season, with just 18 points out of 32 games, they are rooted to the bottom of the Northern Premier League. They spent 13 seasons in the last 19 years in the National League North. Unfortunately, both periods, 2006 to 2012 and 2017 to 2024, ended in failure. Blyth Spartans have reached the first round proper of the FA Cup an incredible 31 times, the second round 14 times, the third round 4 times, and the fourth and fifth rounds once. 21 years ago, we managed to beat them 2-0 at Croft Park in the first qualifying round of the FA Cup when we were in the North West Counties Football League. I just thought I'd put that out there. Now, listen, Blyth is undoubtedly a giant-killing club with an illustrious history, but in recent years they've struggled financially, begging the question, are they competing above their natural level?
Well, I think the question probably could have been answered when we were in the National League North. It kind of split opinions at Blyth between the fans. For me personally, I thought we were at the level we deserved to be. We had a really good run, I think 2017, 18, when we got beat at Altrincham in the playoffs on penalties. If we had beaten them, we would have taken on Chorley, and that was potentially to try and get through into the conference. So we've touched with the highs. Unfortunately, as you know, Frank and AJ, trying to run a non-league football club doesn't come cheap. And if it's not run correctly, then obviously the balance of power will shift and the slide will inevitably start. So I firmly believe they deserve to be in this league. It's going to be a real shame when we drop out of this league, which is probably the lowest point we've ever been since the Northern League days. Did we sort of peak too much in the National League North? No, because we, as you said, we had 13 consecutive seasons in there. So we had established ourselves. Just unfortunately, the last 3 or 4 years, probably since COVID, that's when the slide started, and unfortunately, it just hasn't been stopped.
Now, listen, you're obviously passionate about your club. You described your son Adam and his decision to go play golf rather than go to the game at Bamber Bridge is quite sad. Given that he's your wingman, obviously really upset. I'm assuming that all the pent-up frustration led to the impassioned speech to the team at the end of the game. Yeah,
I had sort of... I was in two minds whether to do it, because I had touched upon it a fortnight ago at Gainsborough when the same result went the same way. But the week later, we get a really valuable point at home, and I thought, just maybe. But I looked at Bamber Bridge, and we were talking to some of their fans, because at the game on Saturday, because obviously it wasn't segregated, and the way they were sound, by the way. And they even said, maybe after 10, 20 minutes, this is potentially maybe one of the worst teams that's come to Bamber, and they're fourth bottom, for God's sake. It was the first time this season they've actually scored 5 goals in the league. And yeah, they had season pros, but they were no great shakes, and they're fourth bottom, and that worried me, and it was the same against Basford a few weeks ago. They were second bottom, struggled with them. Michaelova, third bottom, struggling. And the goals that we're conceding, for me, I question, I genuinely question what goes on the training field, because you can't concede 6 at Macclesfield, which is the free hit, because not many teams will get anything at Max, and that's fine. But you concede 6 at Macclesfield, you concede 5 at Worksop, you ship in 5 at Gainsborough, you ship in 5 at Bamber Bridge. I'm at a loss to try and describe either what's happening with the training sessions or what goes on in players' minds. Now, I'm not digging anybody out, but at any level, to concede 70 plus goals and score, I want to say 30 odd or 20 odd or whatever, I haven't really got the figures in front of us, apologies, but to have 18 points from 32 games when we've had 12 points at home out of 16 games, 6 points away out of 16 games, and have used an incredible amount of players, i.e. 49 players. Now, low knees don't help. So I have a big bugbear with low knee players, because some of them will come in and they always say at all levels, never fall in love with a lone player. Some of them will come in and try, but some of them will just come in and just think, well, it's trying to put us on the map. The problem I have at the minute, the senior players, a lot of the fans feel like they're being let down for the wages they're on. The young ones, bless them, they're trying their best. We'll get academy players in. We'll have a loan player for a month or a fortnight. I think we've used 8 goalkeepers this season, and I'm not really sure how much it can get worse. But it has to, for me, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. But unfortunately, the way that this new ownership want to run the club is a CIC, and a town that only holds 67,000 people with another football club just up the road, I find it difficult to try and find out where the finances are coming from. Because if that's not unless we're really fortunate, we have the same scenario as Wrexham, which everybody would love, or the Neville's at Salford, which would be great. But those type of people aren't out there, and if they are, it's a big risk for them to get involved in the football club. The parallels for me, I look at FC Manchester. So FC Manchester used to be doing really well, and then they were rock bottom with us back in December. They're now mid-table. Guess what, guys? We're still rock bottom. But they have a fan base of 1,900. We don't. We have a fan base of 500. Yeah. And to ask those regulars to contribute, and the funding page is going really well, by the way. I think the last time I looked towards the 25,000 target, I think we were just over 16 grand. So I have to take my hat off to the guys and girls that are putting in their hard-earned cash. But when you're spending petrol money and food money, and you're getting drinks in and hot dogs and burgers week after week or fortnight after fortnight, and that's showing that lack of commitment for me, something just has to give. And unfortunately, me rant gave on Saturday. Now, I didn't call anybody out. I did an interview on a national radio yesterday, and I got, they were quite praising of saying, look, you didn't call anybody out, you didn't want to mention names, you weren't mentioning figures and wages. But my ultimate argument was, if that was me, of that level of commitment on my salary, and I didn't perform week after week, I'd be out of a job. And that's the frustrating thing.
Have you any idea at all what the kind of budget they're operating on at all?
Well, yeah, so I think the budget for next season is probably going to be cut to about 2 to 3 grand a week. Which, to be fair, is a lot less than some of the teams that's going to be in that league, and that's me worry. So if you average it over a squad of 16, do the maths, you're looking at like sort of 150 to sort of 200 quid a week, and our players actually going to come to Blyth for that. It's a real concern. Look, I know I speak for a lot of non-league fans. They're all in the same boat. I look at Bury, I look at Darlington, even though the rivalry, what happened with them back in the day, and we all want what's best for our non-league clubs. And this is the only time I'll ever be selfish. I don't concern myself with the clubs I've mentioned. My passion is Blyth Spartans, and when I go on holiday abroad, I'll always take my Blyth tops and my Blyth towels from the sunbeds, the pools, and the amount of people that will come and talk to me. Oh, we remember your cup runs from the 70s. Oh, we remember you, beating Bournemouth and playing Blackburn, and you knocked Shrewsbury out. It's remembered.
I think I might have spoken to you at some stage on a holiday somewhere. Seem to recall you.
You probably have, mate. Yeah, I'm a bit like Pitbull. I'm Word Wild, apparently, but yeah, but that's the passion for me. Yeah. I mean, I was sitting in Rhodes 2 years ago, and a young lad in his 30s come up and said, is that Blyth Spartans? And I went, it is, mate. He goes, mate, honestly, what a fantastic run club. He said, I played against them. He said, I used to play for Nuneaton. Yeah. And it's things like that makes you sit up and be proud to follow the green and whites. But at the minute, I mean, I'm away in May. I'm off to Portugal in May. Do I look at it and do I still take me tops? Of course, I'm going to take me tops because no matter what league we're in, I am still going to be there. But this hurts, and it hurts massively.
I know. Listen, now we mentioned obviously listen, we're going to come to the new owner or the new owners in a bit, but and we'll talk about the former chairman a little bit later. But I'm a football chairman myself, and in terms of passion, we're just as passionate, certainly at our level, just as passionate about the football club as anyone. So we really feel your frustration as well. But have you thought about or imagined how the current chairman and board are feeling after the rant that you had? And listen, by the way, I can totally understand the frustration.
Yeah, do you know what? That rant on Saturday wasn't aimed at anybody specifically. It was just a generalisation for these group of people, whether it's on or off the field, to fully understand what the fans are going through. Now, yes, it'll have upset a few, and that's fine. I can live with that. I can live with the criticism. And I've seen a lot of comments from fans who I stand next to who we don't really get on, and that's fine, and I can live with that as well. And their feedback has been really, really positive. But looking at it from the new owner's point of view, I genuinely do feel for them, because they're coming to the football club in November, which was left in a real mess from the previous owner, Irfan, and he absolutely conned and mugged that football club. He promised with the earth they'll have had nothing. It turned sour very quickly. He kept feeding with rubbish about, well, I've got big deals with big companies and I'm meant to be getting these players, and it never ever transpired. Now, the guys that have come in now, they're all local Blyth lads, and I'll be honest with you, great lads. But I think if you speak to them off the record, I think some of them will openly admit they've just probably taken on a project which is a little bit too big. And that's not a criticism, because they saved the club from going under in November last year, which was the key thing. But I'll flip it round, Frank and AJ. Let's just say hypothetically, I didn't do that on Saturday at Bamber Bridge. How much longer before somebody else did it, or it become really poisonous or toxic, as to where the home gate then drop? Because we're at Workington on Saturday, and God forbid we get a spanking there on Saturday. We're at home to Gainsborough on Tuesday, who put 5 goals past us 21 days ago. And you have to ask yourself, how many people's going to go on Tuesday and pay £15 to watch a team that performs like that? So had I not done it, everybody would have just been fine and gone, oh, well, it's another defeat. Well, are we going to go on Tuesday? Will we go to Workington? I mean, I look at the fixtures that's left. We're to Workington on Saturday, then at home to Gainsborough. We've got, in no particular order, we've got Matlock to play away. We've got to go to Hyde. We've got Whitby, which is the last away game on Easter Monday. We then finish our season home to Worksop. We've got Macclesfield to come to Croft Park. Now, effectively, we've got 10 games left. I'm struggling to see where we're going to get points from, guys, because if we get to the end of this month, and when Macclesfield come and Robbie Savage and his crew turn up, potentially that could be the day they get promoted and we get relegated. And that, for me, that will sit badly.
Listen, we've had a pretty similar season ourselves at Skem United. We're struggling. We're at the bottom rung of the non-league pyramid now, really struggling. We've had a plethora of players come and go throughout the season, and we probably gone over the 40, certainly over the 50.
Oh, we're over the
maybe,
60 mark.
Maybe 60 mark in terms of the turnover of players, and a lot of them are young players. I don't know what the split. Kids. I don't know what the split is between kids and senior players. But do you feel as though some of the senior players have let themselves down and rather sort of accepted their fate and not really helping some of the younger lads to develop?
Yeah, do you know what? I would probably agree with you. And as much as it might get back to them, and that's fine, it's still an opinion. I would probably agree. I think, listen, guys, you've been in football long enough to know that, especially at this level, players don't want to perform. It's an art form of hiding. But the thing is, fans aren't stupid. You can see players that are hiding, players that don't want to pass, players that don't want to receive a pass. They'll shirk out the challenges. They may be fearing injury at that level just because they don't want to be involved. What I'm looking for is for players to come to the football club, roll their sleeves up and die for that badge. Now, they might be there a month, they might be there on loan for 6 months, but while you're there and the football club and the supporters are paying your wage, for me, you should give your all, because it can put you in the window for another club, and if it doesn't work out and you've tried, then we'll wish you all the best. But we've had players that have come back over the last 18 months that just, for some of the fans, by the way, and a lot of them will agree on this, some of them are there more for the money than they are for the badge. Now, the one thing I will say is when we get to the summer, the guys off the field have got a big summer ahead of them, because if they don't get it right off the pitch, then they're asking supporters to start that season again in another lower league to try and come and support the football club. And it's the defining balance between stupidity and loyalty, because it will always be both for me, even though that's a bit mad. But, I speak to people quite frequently where they've just given up watching the football club because of past misdemeanors, previous owners. But I think, for me, that's really sad, because if you cared about the club that much, you'd follow them no matter who was in charge. The effort has to come from the squad. There's a piece in the article on Saturday in the video where I said, listen, you don't have to like your bosses, but what you do need to do when you step over that white line is perform for yourself. And at the minute, a lot of fans, me included, aren't seeing that.
And do you feel that that's the case, that they're not liking the bosses?
No, I generally don't think it's a case of they don't want to play for the management, because if that was the case, then why would they come? I think, for me personally, I think a lot of them has looked and thought, oh, great, I get to wear the famous green and white shirt. But if you're going to wear that famous green and white shirt, lads, wear it with pride. Don't come and wear it just because it says on your CV, I had a spell at Blyth Spartans, because that's not good enough for me. It just isn't good enough. And I've had people comment and come back to me and say, well, look, how the hell does he think he is? It's just Blyth Spartans. But that just Blyth Spartans is just Blyth Spartans of me of 40 plus years. I don't worry about any other football team. I only worry about Blyth Spartans. So my passion and my standards are set high when it comes to that football club. If the players can't match that, then for me, they're not good enough for that football club. Because we've had some really great squads in the last 20 years. We've had some good cup runs. We've dabbled with the playoffs a couple of times. So it can be done if we attract the right type of player, the right type of mentality. But I just think it's a bit of a sinking ship, and unfortunately, none of the guys at the minute seem to want to row in the right direction.
It's fair enough. I think what's also fair enough is the frustration that you as a supporter and supporters in general are kind of feeling. Nobody wants to attend a game every week to see another loss or a poor performance, but sometimes you kind of got to see the broader picture. I suppose since last Saturday, Tony, do you feel any different? And how frustrated are you and the supporters? And then ultimately, does there come a point where you stop going to Blyth Spartans games?
Well, for me, so the answer to your last part of your statement is I will never ever stop going to Blyth games till the day I die. And that's a given. And, listen, I've seen it in days in the 70s and 80s in the Northern League when we were going to Bishop Auckland and Eshwin and Asherton and places like that, and Ferry Hill as a kid growing up as an 8, 9, 10-year-old, and absolutely loved it with me dad. And it was brilliant. And that was one of the things where I was quite happy when Adam, the youngest, was into his football. My eldest, Cameron, doesn't really follow football, and that's fine. But I had a wingman. I had someone to go to the games with, and me and him, nearly every away game, I'll take the car. So I ain't bothered about the drink. I'll take the car, I'll spend my money on petrol. Me and him will have a bit of banter in the car, and we're really passionate about the club. And I've watched him grow up with a great set of fans on the away buses and behind the goal. And he absolutely loves it. And his passion for the club is nearly as much desired as what I am. But when he decided to play golf last week, and he's playing golf again this week, because he doesn't fancy going to watch the football, that was the bit for me where I just thought, wow. Because I can't give up on my club, but I can't force my son to watch them either. But he'll be there next Tuesday, and he'll probably come to Matlock with us, and he'll come to Hyde, and he'll definitely be at Whitby. But just the last 2 away games, he's just thought, nah, Dad, it's unfair for me to sit and watch you spend your money on me, or vice versa, just to watch that. And that was the bit that that was the most disappointing thing for me. But yeah, it is what it is.
Listen, I force my 34-year-old son to go to the games now, and I won't let him anywhere near a set of golf clubs.
Mate, to be fair, if you see me play golf, I'm better off going to watch Blyth.
Listen, supporting Blyth comes at a considerable cost. You've already mentioned that. I'm just wondering whether, from a club's perspective, do you think that geographically it's costing the club a lot more to operate at the high level of the pyramid? Do you think that has any bearing on the club's plight at all? Because it certainly can't help, can it?
100%. So yeah, I was going to pick up on that from one of your previous statements. So the two biggest things that Blyth Spartans struggle with is financially and logistically. Because if I look at the catchment area in Manchester and Cheshire and Merseyside, it's a huge catchment area. You know, players will travel from outside of Liverpool, you know, maybe Leeds or a bit closer, Preston, Bamber, Blackpool, and they'll travel. But then what we have to contend with is on our doorstep, we've got Gateshead, decent salaries, Darlington, well-run club, Spennymoor, fantastic run club, by the way. I've known Jason Ainslie for years, obviously he was at Blyth. But when you've got a lot of players at that catchment area, I live in Darlington, in Middlesbrough, in York, in Harrogate, in Whitby, it's easier for them to travel to Darlington, Spennymoor, Scarborough, Harrogate. Whereas we haven't got a catchment area up here. So we have to rely on players from basically non-league clubs or Newcastle Academy or under 19s or under 23s, which is I think is currently run by Graham Fenton. And even then we're struggling to get players in from the academy to try and sort of bring them through. So yeah, geographically it hammers us a lot. I mean, I laughed last season when I saw before the end of last season when I saw Needham Market, which is in Suffolk, as you'll know, near Ipswich, were moaning about being put in the National League North. And Oxford City being in the National League North, and I've drove to Gloucester quite a few times to watch the Spartans. When we get there, they're like, "Oh, we've got like a 2-hour drive to Manchester," and I'm saying, "I've just driven 5 hours to come to Gloucester." So that's the defining difference. So geographically, we do struggle, and it really is difficult to try and get players to come to the football club outside of the northeast. And credit to the guys that are in at the minute that they are trying their absolute best to try and find the right type of player to improve the squad. But unfortunately, at the minute, we're sitting rock bottom. We've got 18 points. The budget's not there. And let's be honest, if anybody else of any sense would want to come to Blyth this season to see this through, it would be a big ask. So for me, the summer has to be a big reset. But once again, we're going to be back to square one because we're still in the same place in Northumberland and we're still going to struggle with the budget. So yeah, it does have a massive effect. Even the cost of buses, I mean, the away team buses, the budget's been unfortunately cut for that. And that's a real shame because your players, for me, should be able to travel in comfort. And they didn't at Gainsborough. And whether that had an effect on the result, I generally don't know. But yeah, where we are logistically, or geographically, I should say, doesn't really help.
No, it won't do. You say that the summer's going to be an enormous rebuilding job. Do you trust the current management structure to be able to do that?
It's a tough one to ask because they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't, these guys. So, you know, I've had feedback this week that apparently a couple of members of the board or the board and themselves weren't happy with the video on Saturday. And that's fine. Because it was never meant to intend to criticise any individual, and yet, but you get it at all levels. I mean, the argument of that was, let's just say, guys, right, 1,000 people don't go and watch Newcastle, or 1,000 people don't go and watch Sunderland, or 2,000 people don't go to Old Trafford. Nobody mentions that because it's not missed. 150 people don't go and watch Blyth. That's a huge miss. Now, they could turn this into a negative and say, well, you've damaged the reputation of the football club. It's all over the world that you've slagged the players off. And I didn't, by the way. It was constructive criticism. You've made we look fools. For me, we should use that as a positive. Because the positive should be, well, why don't we go out and show him what we can do? Why don't we go out and give it everything for the rest of the season and see if we can get as many points and try to stay up? So for me, they should use it as a positive and say, right, let's go and prove it wrong to Loudmouth. Let's go and see if we can do that. You see, the flip side of that is, guys, let's say they go and win the next 3 games off the trot. people will then go one of two ways. Oh, well, Tony, it looked like your video worked. But many people, the cynics, will go, but why haven't they done that all season?
Well,
So
I think the supporters have already made their decision, haven't they? Though, Tony, probably a few weeks ago while you've been struggling. Certainly happened to us at Skem. Margates have tailed off considerably, and I don't think it takes a video by you to put them off. And in respect of the players as well, they should still be proud to wear, like you say, the shirt of Blyth.
I mean, the weird thing is, guys, our average attendances at home are still well above 550, which I find staggering, but also credit to every single one that turns up for the home games. And I think a lot of them were kind of really fed up with the previous owner, with all the lies. So, a lot of them maybe stayed away because they felt really sort of, I'm going to use the word sort of allegedly conned, or, badly mismanaged and badly let down. And then some of them have looked at it and thought, oh, not again, we're back to square one. But the people just keep turning up. And for me, the club can't say that are still turning up and the effort should come on the pitch. Where do you draw the line? Because if the results don't come and people stop coming, then there's less money to attract players to turn it around. At the moment, this football club's it's unfortunately just going in a vicious circle. And I don't think anybody knows what the answer is. That's whether it's the board, the management, or the fans. Because it's got so bad so quickly. It's just becoming an emergency situation where the slide hasn't been arrested. It's gone beyond that.
I'm looking at the attendance table. You're ninth in that division. I wonder whether you look at some of the teams below you and struggle to see how they manage to make ends meet. They must have owners that have got extremely deep pockets.
Well, yeah, I mean, so if I look at the away games, some of the grounds have been. I mean, to be fair, other than Macclesfield and maybe one or two teams in that league, a lot of teams when Blyth travel will say that is their cup final because of the name of the brand and the team and the history, which I kind of get, and it'll be the same next season. But when you go into teams like Bamber Bridge and Worksop, who are averaging like 280, 300, you have to ask yourself, how are they sustainable? But the answer is it goes back to the catchment area because they're able to attract maybe a better type of player. Now, I look at the teams in the National League North. I look at Kirsten Ashton. Their attendances last season in the National League North were averaging about 190, and they were still mid-table.
Doesn't make sense at all.
But the problem, the good thing they have, though, guys, is they have a facility around that stadium where it's all 3G, 4G, and 5G pitches. So that's how they make their revenue. We don't have that at Blyth. So we struggle to get extra revenue because it's a council-run pitch. It's in the middle of a housing estate, as you know, because you've both been, where other clubs are a bit more fortunate. So I look at other clubs, and you're right. So I look at Bamber, I look at Gainsborough. There wasn't that many at Gainsborough. Gainsborough's in the middle of the town centre. So I have to ask myself, how do these clubs still be sustainable year after year after year? And a big club like Blyth can't manage that. It's for me, it's just not adding up.
Well, no, and this I think sort of begs the financial question: is the club solvent following that takeover, or are they still servicing in massive debts?
Well, once again, this has always been a bugbear of a lot of supporters. Sometimes it becomes a bit of a cloak and dagger. So you'll hear of others, oh well, debts have been paid. And then you'll hear of people that are really close to the club. Well, actually, we still owe this club that amount, and this club that amount, and this club that amount. We were all told in November that the debt was paid. It's then since transpired. It hasn't been. So we still owed clubs like Gateshead, Darlington, Spennymoor for loan players. And so, once again, other fans will be looking and sitting thinking, well, actually, it's all good and well saying, the budget's been cut. But then, there's the GoFundMe page. So that GoFundMe page, I presume, will go on players' wages or the budget for next season. But 25 grand's not going to last you long. When we get to the start of next season, we're going to have to get off to a good start if we want to keep enticing people to come through the gate. I would imagine the admissions fees will be cut because at the minute it's 15 quid. I don't think anybody will pay £15 to go and watch that next season. So there's still a lot of work for the guys to be done. And they're not running before the walk. I just think they've probably taken on a project which is a bit too big. Now, the chairman is a great fella. knows his stuff inside and out. He was heavily involved with the England Supporters Club, and he's been to Blyth a lot of years. He wants to run his way, which is fine. I haven't got a criticism for that and never will have, because it's his club and he wants to run his way. But if there's investment wanting to be put in from the outside, then surely that investment is a good thing. Now, I have been told this week that there was 2 separate offers of investment which have been allegedly knocked back, but we don't know why.
No.
But once again, we don't know how they were, so the stories could be fabricated. It all could just be rumour mills. We generally don't know. But there has to be somebody out there that wants to really invest and help this famous football club. I'm not talking Wrexham style. That would be great.
Well, that's our next question, really, because we've mentioned the Hollywood stars at Wrexham before on our show, and I'm assuming you'd love to attract similar interest. But
we all would, Frank.
All would. Well, you know what I noticed? There's not a great deal of difference between the populations of Wrexham, Blyth Spartans, and Skem. There's not much difference at all. But what would you say to potential investors to attract them to Blyth Spartans? Listen, it's got a rich history and it's known worldwide, as you've already alluded to before. But what would you say to potential investors yourself?
For me personally, they just have to look at the history of the football club and what it's achieved, and it can be and still will be, in my eyes, one of the most famous non-league football clubs in the United Kingdom. And everybody knows about Blyth. Like I say, when I go on holiday, people will talk about it and it's great. But in non-league, as you know, Frank, you never get your money back.
No.
And where I think a lot of business owners at that level struggle is to try and understand how quickly, if you're not having games, you still have to pay out wages. So it's more about the losses than the gains. But like I look, there's a guy up the road and runs Morpeth, Ken Beattie. He's put vast amount of his own money in. Now he knows, because he's told me this personally. He knows if he passes away tomorrow, he's not bothered, because he's kept his club running.
Yeah.
Tony Platt came in and saved it with Kevin Scott in 2000. The two of them put an awful lot of money in. And for me, and yes, it kind of faded away sourly, but to save that famous football club, and we had some really good years under those. At the minute, we had a chance. I came in last February, completely and utterly a waste of time. But I'd really, really love to see these guys get it right.
Yeah.
But if they can't, then there's no shame in crying out for help, because I can guarantee there is somebody out there that has the will, the way, and the finances to come and help and move this famous club forward. They just need to get in touch with the club, because it's a brilliant club. On the Wrexham story, by the way, and I don't know if you know this, the two guys in question were interested in buying another football club at the time, but the chairman couldn't disclose through NDA who these people were. So obviously they couldn't tell the football club who it was. Talks had happened with a football club in the northeast between the agent of the two guys in America and the chairman of this other football club in the northeast. Talks broke down, and a month later, Rob and your mother man bought Wrexham, and the club that failed to get the interested parties was Hartlepool United. So if it could have happened for Hartlepool and it's happened for Wrexham, it can still happen for Blyth.
Yeah, it absolutely can. We've been seeing kind of an influx of new owners from overseas, particularly the United States, where Hanley Town have just been the beneficiary of new ownership from overseas. Is that something that you can kind of look for in an owner? Not necessarily kind of knowing the history of Blyth Spartans and the history of football as a sport, but just someone who's willing to invest. Is that kind of?
Yeah, I think you need to find the fine line between chancers and people that are really interested. So, what a client that I work on behalf of in my job, I was speaking to him about this last week, and he was telling me a really strange story. And you'll probably know this, being your non-league historians, with Bedford and another team called Real Bedford.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this.
We've featured them on the club.
So there you go. Well. So the guy was involved in Bitcoin.
Yeah,
and he's put millions into this football club, and I think he's an English guy. I think he's UK based.
Yeah.
And I know, and obviously, we had Tony Platten, who obviously sold his shares in Drager and put a lot of money in. They're out there, guys. For me, though, it's risk and reward, because nobody wants to take on a football club with the worry and the stress of hanging over it, as if to say, well, if we get this wrong, we're going to be remembered for getting this wrong. No, that's not what I want to happen with these set of guys. I desperately want this management team to get this right. Please, if there's anybody out there, anybody has a spare few $100,000, and there will be, by the way, and they want it invested in a famous football club, then please get in touch. Because for me, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I dread the day where I wake up one morning and think, I'm not going to watch my club.
Yeah. Listen, we're not far behind you. We're not. We haven't got the quite the illustrious history that you've got, but we've been to Wembley twice. We've won the Amateur FA Cup. We've tried ourselves to entice investors, stakeholders to the football club. It's not easy. I often get the impression people wait until you're at your really lowest ebb before they come in final minute and help you out. I hope that they do that a little bit quicker at Blyth. You've still got your own stadium. It's a nice little setup there. Hopefully whoever invests there, probably you'd expect them to put a plastic pitch in like they've done at Bury now, because that make money. I think somebody told me they can generate anything between £270,000 to £300,000 a year, which is good money, which is money that Blyth Spartans could do with. So hopefully there is somebody out there. The one question I was going to ask, by the way, is Stockton-on-Tees, Stockton Town. Now they're not far away from you at all. They're doing really, really well. I always thought Blyth are the biggest team in that area. What's happened with Stockton? Where do they have a change of fortune?
Just a weird one. Yeah, I think they were very similar to what happened with Shields. I mean, I remember referencing Shields in the Northern League when they were getting 70, 80 people watching, and then Sunderland just become really poor and ended up in League One, and then suddenly Shields' gates went up to 3,500. Now, it hasn't happened that much at Stockton, but once again, it's still a decent catchment area because you've got teams from Middlesbrough, teams from North Yorkshire, so it's a bit easier to get into Tayside than it is to travel to Northumberland because it's another hour up the A19 or up the A1. I didn't go to the Stockton game in September when we won 3-0, which incidentally was our last away win. We haven't actually won an away game on a Saturday for 360 days. So in Stockton have come to Blyth twice this season and beaten both the trophy, I think, or the cup in the league. But once again, their budget's better than us.
Yeah. So
they had young Thompson, who used to play for Darlington. He scored 2 worldies that night, and he was the difference. Unfortunately, at the minute, we're struggling to get the right type of player in to try and take the club forward. Blyth will always be bigger than Stockton, by the way. My feet are bigger than Stockton. Let's be honest, all jokes aside, and that's fair play. And listen, I haven't got an issue with any other non-league club trying to better themselves. I just want Blyth to be the best.
Yeah, no, listen, totally agree with you. Listen, I think you hit upon it in one of your previous podcasts that somebody mentioned the worst thing that could possibly happen is Blyth goes out of business. I don't think that's anywhere near happening. But you've also said that you set your standards really high, and simply surviving isn't good enough for Blyth. You clearly want the club to thrive.
Yeah, I mean, look, the standards things will be slightly different for me because everybody has personal standards and individual standards, whether it's work, job, family, or following football. But when you've watched them for so long and you've seen the highs and you've had great cup runs, I mean, me and a few of the guys, which was the most surreal day I've probably ever had, 2009, I think it was, we flew to Bournemouth to watch them in the FA Cup. Now, there's not many fans and non-league teams can actually say it, that they have flown to watch their team. It was unbelievable.
We did it last season. We went to the Isle of Man.
Which is great because your swimming's not brilliant and the ferries are hopeless, so I kind of get that.
Yeah.
But we did joke about that the other week, saying, imagine getting the Isle of Man away. So, the passion and the drive's there. But yeah, it's my standards. The reason I set my standards is so high is because I want my football club to be the best.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to be the best. Now, whether that's the best in the league below, trying to be the best in this league, or the best in the league above, to me, the standards and the energy and the commitment should just be a given. It should just be a given. When you put that famous shirt on, you should set your standards high enough to play for that football club. And that's I've always been that way with Blyth. For me, it's a given. If you're playing for Blyth, you need to try 100% every single week. Because for me, anything less is just not good enough. Because if I didn't perform in my job, I'd be on the tour.
Yeah, do you think shopping at bargain basement, though, in terms of players, and like you said, there's a lot of young players there, that must have an effect on the performance as well. I mean, players that probably should be playing at a much lower level are playing for Blyth Spartans at the moment.
Yeah, I mean,
is there any sympathy there at all?
There is for the young'uns. I'll give them that. I'll back the younger ones because the elderly, the more experienced ones should know better.
Yeah,
they should know better because the experienced ones have been around the game a lot of years, so they should know much better. That if anybody was going to hide the towel in, it should be the young'uns. Now we brought young lads in, 17, 18, 19-year-old, and they can only try their best.
Yeah.
But the senior players for me should be leading the way. It's like any business. The management have to lead, the rest follow suit. The young'uns I generally feel sorry for. Some of them, could I say some of them being hiding at the deep end? 100%. But once again, it's up to them as individuals whether they sink or swim. So, and that's the way I see that. Now, people might listen back to this and think, oh, Jesus, who does he think he is? It's only Blyth. But to me, it's my football club. So I don't worry about what anybody else thinks or what any other football club and non-league think. I want Blyth to be the best. And generally, guys, is there anything wrong with that?
No, of course there isn't. No, ambition, I suppose, is everything as a fan. Looking to next season, then, Tony. Obviously, like you seem to sort of be looking at relegation as quite a real possibility. But for next season, then, is promotion kind of your hope? Are you looking ahead that far?
Yeah, so me and my laddie, if we're not doing anything, well, sometimes we'll go and watch Ashton, because I was born and raised in Ashton, even though I've followed Blyth all my life. I used to walk across from Ashton with my dad when I was a kid on a Saturday and on a Tuesday, as I was growing up. So, yeah, it was always Croft Park. And I've been to Ashton quite a few times, and I've seen a bit of the standard in that. Is it brilliant? Probably not. It's probably far on maybe some of the bottom 4 or 5, but the gap's massive. So this is no disrespect to anybody in the league that we're going into, but like your Dunstans and your Heaton Stannertons and your Ashertons and teams like that will be averaging, 90 to 100 people on a home game. Blyth are getting 500. So next season, when Blyth go to the away games next season, that's their FA Cup. We should be ready for that. So for me, I look at it, if we can recruit really, really well in the summer and try and match the budgets of the other top 3 or 4 clubs in that league, I generally see no reason why we can't come out of that league within 2 seasons. One's asking a lot, because I think the guys that are running the club at the minute have got a big 18 months in front of them. It'll be about finding our feet. But once again, it's about bringing the right type of player to the football club to try and get out of that league.
And of course, the community interest company as well will probably find their feet at that level as well. It could be a good platform for you all to build upon.
Well, yeah, I mean, as I said before, guys, the summer is a massive reset. Can I sit here and think in 5 years' time we'd still be playing in that league? I bloody hope not. Could I sit here in 5 years' time and hope we're pushing back to get to the Conference North? 100%. But that's me and my standards. That's my aim. And if people are on board with that, that's fine. If not, then maybe I just have to accept that we're not going to be as good as I was hoping we are. But that's going to be really difficult to take on the chin, because that's not me when it comes to this football club.
And where do you think the natural level is for Blyth? Do you think it's Conference North, maybe the National League itself, the Premier League?
It was tough because we were well established in the Conference League North, and then for whatever reason, the money started to just fade away, not dwindle. It just wasn't getting put in. Some of the senior players had to move on just because of age and maybe retirement, or they weren't getting what they were wanted and the money wasn't there. And, crowds were kind of dropping. So that then started to slide. And then we we were saved by COVID, because I think back in 2020 it was only one that went down, and ironically enough we were bottom then. COVID saved us. We managed to survive the following season through more or less the same way, and then when the structure changed in Conference League North to when 4 went down, I think you could almost hear the groans of the most of the people in Blyth to think, oh well, we're just going to go down, because the fate was already accepted then, because we had literally survived by our skin of our teeth 2 previous seasons when it was just 1 that went down. But as soon as the structure changed and it was 4, we did survive on one of the last days where I think we beat, how did we beat at home? I think we won 5-1 at home, Kings Lynn. Yeah, because their manager was getting the sack on the Saturday night, so they weren't bothered. But we managed to pull ourselves out of it. But even then, that just papered over the cracks, because fast forward 2 seasons, we're sitting rock bottom. We got relegated, and we're going to get relegated again.
Mm-hmm. So listen, with a bit of investment, you can certainly get back up the leagues. Listen, you've got Workington on Saturday. That's a 5-hour round trip in itself. You're looking forward to that. What's the chances of a victory over there?
Well, I mean, it's 5 hours depending on how you're travelling, but we're getting the train. So my train will start at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. I'll get to Carlisle for 10 to 12. We'll get the train from Carlisle to Workington at 1. We'll get to Workington at 2. We'll get the 10 to 6 train back from Workington to Carlisle, 10 to 7 from Carlisle, and I'll get back home at about 9 o'clock. There's a 12-hour day. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. It's just
that's commitment for you. Listen, you're clearly passionate. I don't think anybody can rightfully criticise you because you've really spoken very, very well, and they do well, the committee and the supporters, to listen to you and take on board what you've said.
Yeah, I've got more chance of winning the lottery, and even that doesn't happen. I put it on twice a week, because trust me, if those numbers come up for me, that football club's mine. I've only ever wanted.
Well, it's £107 million tonight, isn't it?
I know it is, mate. And listen, I've already got it spent in my head. I've only ever wanted to do 3 things since I was a kid. One of them was drive a train, and I've never been successful at that. The second was to go to Australia to watch the cricket, and that might happen. And the third was always to buy Blyth Spartans. And I'm only 53. And if I keep putting the numbers on, at least one day it has to come in. I have to believe that that football club can turn itself round, whether it's with me or with a big influx of investment in new owners. Because I'll always reiterate, and I'll look at Darlington as well, and they went under and they've recovered with their fan base. And their fan base is fantastic, by the way. They put a lot of money into that football club, as we all know. How can we as a town of 67,000 people with another team in there trying to attract the right type of investment to come to this football club? It's Blyth Spartans, for God's sake. Surely somebody out there must want to look at it and think, do you know what? Wow, we could be involved in something massive. Why don't we try and reach out and see what we can do? And if it comes off, great. If not, then we're no further forward. You know, we're not falling back anymore. We're just no further forward.
Listen, well, you've shone a huge light on the football club. There's absolutely no doubt about that. You've been a fantastic guest, Tony, and I think this won't be the last people will hear about you. No, like I say, I did some radio show that sort of talk about sport without naming them. So I was on there yesterday, and I've done a couple of podcasts on non-league. And yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I sit now on Thursday and think, did I do the right thing? And hindsight's a wonderful thing. And yeah, I was sober as a judge because I had the car, so I knew exactly, what I was going to say, how I was going to dress the players. Will I look back in years to come and think it could have been with? I don't know. Because if nothing happens within the football club, then for me, that video was pointless. But if something great or good comes out of that video, guess what? It was worth doing. Yeah, well, listen, you didn't just slag the club off or anything like that. You spoke with passion, and I think it's touched a lot of hearts and a lot of minds of the supporters. Once again, Tony, thanks for being a guest. You've been great.
Not a problem, guys. Listen, good luck with your teams and enjoy the rest of your seasons, and thanks very much for having me on. Yeah, and good luck with the rest of your season. Yeah, and listen, hopefully you'll get your numbers through tonight. Fingers crossed. Thanks, pals. I appreciate it. Cheers, guys.
All the best, Tony. Take care, mate. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Special shout out to all the businesses that support Skelmersdale United Football Club, Origin Sign Company, T&W Garners, 7PDS, Schem Express Cars 5005, Lease Car UK, RNB Auto Centre, SB Skills Solutions and Hey Presto Web Design. Thank you to everyone who donates to the club, supports our race nights, raffles and the lottery bonus ball scheme, and of course the last man standing. A special thanks to those who organise these fundraising events, especially the incredible Lee Davis and Lucas Bergquist. To all who stand by us both on and off the field, we are truly grateful. If you wish to sponsor the show, please contact me at chairman.schemutdfc@gmail.com or call me on 07766 054 548. All proceeds will go to Skelmersdale United Football Club. Thank you for your unwavering support. Hello and welcome to the third part of the Speaking Frankly football show, and thank you very much to Tony Young from Blyth Spartans, very passionate supporter. It was great to have him on the show.
Oh, 100%, yeah. That's the first time we've ever had a fan on the show who's made that much of a name for himself. But, you know, his perspective on the club is absolutely amazing. And
I think he's had well over 1 million impressions since he put that video on Twitter, or X as they call it. Listen, a warm welcome to Carl Taylor. He's the joint manager of Chadderton alongside Ben Greenidge. Welcome to the show, Carl.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Yeah. Now, looking through the club's almost around about 80-year history, the honours list at Chadderton looks pretty sparse, but I have the feeling that the club is going places now.
Yeah, you could say that. I think myself and Ben have been involved as managers now for about 4.5 years. We sort of took over and then COVID hit, so we sort of cancelled the first season that we were involved in. I think we only played sort of a handful of games, and then in our sort of first season we were sort of finding our feet a little bit, and then we managed to get us promoted for the first time in the club's history from the Division 1 North. And obviously Caesar's now in the Premier Division, so you could say that there's a lot happening at the club, and it's an exciting time for the club, and it's a great place especially for the players to play.
Yeah, very much so.
A question that I don't think we've ever asked before, but how does joint management work?
It does help when we're best friends. So Ben was my best man at my wedding. So we played together for a number of years. Ben was actually captain of Chadderton for about sort of 7 or 8 years in his playing career. I played a few years at Chadderton amongst other teams as well. But yeah, we've known each other for a long time. We know each other inside out pretty much. So that does help when we come to sort of picking teams and designing training sessions and all this sort of stuff. So it's it can have its moments. There's sometimes when he might have an idea and I go against it, and vice versa. But pretty much, majority of the time, 95% of the time, we're pretty much on the same page.
Do you ever fall out?
No, not really. We don't, to be fair. I think because we know each other that well, it's like I think we let each other have it when we know when one another's going on one, so to speak. We let them have it. We just let them go with it.
Who's likely to back down first, you or Ben?
Yeah.
You don't want to answer that one, do you?
Yeah, I don't answer that one, but yeah, normally me. I'm trying to be the peacemaker. If Ben loses it, he does lose it, so it's quite hard to bring him back round. But I think I'd say I'm more of the peacemaker, to be honest.
That's very diplomatic of you to say.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll have a different opinion on it.
Probably have a different opinion. Yeah.
So you guys finished 7th last season, and this season on, you were absolutely smashing it in the early days. But with all your games being played away from home while the synthetic pitch is laid, is it not so much of a surprise that things haven't sort of quite managed to stay as well as what they were going earlier on in the season?
surprise to me and Ben, if you like. I mean, we started the season like a house on fire. We were up there. We actually hit the summit at one point, and I think if it was the game on Boxing Day against ABA, if we'd have won that game, we'd have gone back top of the league on Boxing Day. So we were flying since the turn of the year. Various things have happened. I think I'd probably say a mix of. I mean, all managers might say this, but sort of discipline has been a big part of our season this year. On not just sort of tackles, but players using their mouths and stuff like that has not been great for us this season. So we've had to sort of clamp down on the discipline side of things, and that's talking to the officials. There's a way of speaking to officials, and sometimes the younger lads, they don't get it, and it's caused us problems this year. I'll be open and honest. We'll say that. You know what I mean? That's been a big thing. So with the suspensions has killed us as we come into sort of the back end of the season. Injuries now. We had 7, 8 lads went on the loss at weekend on the sideline. Seven lads that would normally start for me, we're on the side. So it's been tough. We lost our main goal scorer at the turn of the year to Berry. Berry came in for him. And
we're going to mention that. It's quite controversial in certain circles. But you also lost Bruno towards the end of October. Now, Bruno played a couple of games for us last season. An absolute tremendous player, and I think he had about 4 man of the match nominations during his period at the club. So I would imagine that, as well as the loss of Lewis, who's scored 34 goals for you, has had a huge effect on the team.
Yeah, at this level, Frank, it's one of these where you've got to players want to play. And we sort of assembled a squad at the start of the season with a number of lads that didn't want to sit on the bench. So we were sort of rotating and trying to sort of keep everybody happy, if you know what I mean, just to try and keep the squad together and keep players at the club. Certain players weren't happy. Bruno was one of them. He wanted to play every minute of every game. And it's at this level it's just not possible. 46 league games, a lot of games come. We as managers, we've got to try and pick a team where we think will win the game, and obviously have an eye on the midweek game as well. So we try to use the squad as best we can, but some players they just don't like that, and unfortunately that was in Bruno's case. He just wanted to play every game, so he came to us, and it was disappointing because he was very, very good for us. Bruno, we're still big admirers of the lad. You know what I mean? He's a very good footballer, and unfortunately, he wanted to go elsewhere to get guaranteed game time. So, and losing Lewis was a big blow for us. Obviously, 34 goals. It's how do you replace that, right? It's one of those things where it's not easy to go and find a forward who's going to sort of match what Lewis did in the first half of the season for us. So, that did knock us. We still got some talented players at the club, but certainly that obviously did have an impact after the turn of the year.
Listen, we're big friends of Berry, so we've got to be careful what we say here. But there is a bit of controversy over the signing of Lewis, isn't there? And I think AJ picked up on it a few weeks ago. What were you going to say, AJ? I've thrown it over to him, so I don't get it.
Yeah.
So I think, and this is sort of purely from a middle ground point of view, is that Bury have been accused of buying the league, or sort of buying up, other players from direct competition to kind of take the sting out of the club. From your opinion, and from the opinion of Chadderton Football Club, was there anything controversial in the manner in which Lewis was signed to Bury?
I suppose I'd be careful what I said, to be honest, but in a word, look, the way I think that the sort of 7-day ruling these days is, I don't know whether that's at its time, whether it's not at its time or whatever. I don't know if there's a different way the club can do it. I just don't think the 7-day rule exists anymore. I think tapping up a players does exist, in this day and age. Do we know that our player's been spoken to before the 7 days?
Oh, we know it goes on, don't we? Yeah, and I'm not suggesting Berry did, by the way, because as I said, big friends with them. But listen, it definitely happens.
It definitely happens, and they have their heads turned. And look, who will know what sort of pressure? I mean, as managers at our level, we're under a certain amount of pressure. But obviously, we give up our time. In Ben's perspective, we do it for the love of the game. We're currently not paid by Chadderton, so we do it because we want to progress the football club. It's our local club. We've played for the club, and effectively we want to see the club progress and do well. And who knows what pressures on the manager at Bury. The amount that they're spending. Obviously, the crowds that they're getting. There's pressure to take Bury up the leagues, and by hook or by crook, they'll find a way of doing it. And if that's by taking the best players from their opposition to weaken them, then that's obviously one of the targets they've looked at.
But would you say all's fair in love and war in that sense?
I mean, and I sort of think at the end of the day, it's been great for teams like Bury in the past, FC United being at our level, because obviously it's great to put yourself against them and play in front of these crowds. You sometimes think, is it an unfair advantage because of the money coming into the club? The likes of Chadderton, can we compete with the likes of Bury and the clout that they've got and the financials that they've got? We can't. That's the obvious answer. But
you were pushing them close, and I go back, I think, at the end of my first tenure as chairman at Skelmersdale United Football Club, and we were up against Chester, and we were going neck to neck with them, and I think we had to score. I think we won 7-2, and they had to either concede one less or we had to score one goal more. But we took them to the end of the season, and then obviously we ended up in the playoffs, and it was a miserable occasion because it was a dour sort of 1-0 defeat against AFC Fylde, and of course we know how far AFC Fylde have gone on since then. But there is a certain amount of you can compete against these if you're fortunate enough, and you were doing so for a long period of time.
That's it, and I think we did, and I think we created a really good squad. And then as the season sort of progresses, you have, like I just mentioned before, you have lads who want to play every game, so that's a problem that you have to overcome. Obviously, lads who are doing really well, all of a sudden you've played 20 games, and whoever's hit the net the most, whoever's getting most man of the matches, you have scouts come in, and that's football. Do you know what I mean? If players are doing well, they're gonna get attraction from other clubs, and that's just part and parcel of football. You have to sort of deal with that, and we have to do our own scouting as well. Do you know? If we lose a player, we then have to go and replace him. Do you know? So it's. I'm not going to sit here and whinge and moan about that, because that's part and parcel of football. But we have competed with Bury on numerous seasons in past. We've had good results against them. We've had 2 good results against them in the cup games this season. Unfortunately, we lost out in both league games. But it just shows you, though, money's not everything. If you've got a game plan and the right attitude, you can succeed. But obviously, if you've got a helping hand with the amount of financials that Bury have, then it's obviously going to help.
Yeah, it is. I mean, success is still very much on the radar for the club. I mean, you're still chasing the playoffs. Is that the goal right now, to hit the playoffs?
With the 6 games to go, we've got South Liverpool tomorrow night. Again, another tough game. They're fighting down there. We played them twice this season. One in the Vars, where they knocked us out of the Vars 1-0 at their place, and then we actually went the following week and put on a really, really good performance there, and we beat them quite convincingly. So you know what you're going to get against South Liverpool. They're going to work hard. They're not going to give you a minute's peace. They're going to graft for every ball, every tackle. So. Look, it's hard for us with the run that we're in at the moment to really look past Friday night. I think if we get a result on Friday, I think then we can start to think, right, okay, because we do have to play West Didsbury, Ramsbottom. There's teams up there that we do have to play. So we're possibly in charge of our own destiny. But look, we can't look past Friday night, and we can't disregard South Liverpool. If we do, then we're in a bit of a rut at the minute again. We've got a couple of players back tomorrow, so I'm hopeful that we can get back to the sort of early form that we did earlier on in the season. But the lads trained well Tuesday. They were really upbeat. I think they had a real bit between the teeth to sort of turn around this form that we're in. Because certainly since myself and Ben have been at the club, we've not been on this type of form. It's so prolonged, if you like. It's never been this. We've always lost games, or the couple of games, or 2 or 3 games we've played without a win. But with 12 games now and only 2 wins, it's quite a long period.
It's been an extremely competitive league this season with many surprise packages. Which team has surprised you, and which team has impressed you?
It's a good question. It's a really good question, because there has been a few teams. Obviously, Bury was the standout when we played them at our place. I thought the lad Pedro up top. I thought he's the best nine I've seen in the league, 100%. Very, very good player. Padiham, obviously, are a good side. They were up there last season, got into the playoffs. I did think they would be again. They had a really bad start to the season. I thought that's just typical Padiham, though. They don't really start well, but they always sort of finish well. So I thought Padiham would be up there. And also Lower Breck. I think Lower Breck are a really strong side. I think they'll probably make the playoffs this season, and their home record's been fantastic this season. It's always a tough place to go there. So, but yeah, there's a few. Like even when we played Longridge the other day, I was really, really surprised. Well, it's not a surprise because I know how well coached they are, and it's such a young side. But they were well drilled. They all knew what they were doing. And to be so sort of low in the table, I was a bit surprised with that. Do you know what I mean? Because they were good value for it, to be fair.
Yeah, and Erlen and FC St Helens, they've done all right as well, haven't they?
Yeah, Earlham again always up there, aren't they? They're about St Helens' first season in this division again. Yeah, I because of what we did this last season, we finished 7th. We were sort of up there after we got promoted. I sort of thought St Helens would be, because you sort of ride a bit of a crest of a wave, don't you? When you get promoted, the confidence is there, and I sort of think and when we played St Helens, it's always been a tough game. That was the team we played in the playoff final to get promoted. So, I know what they're about. They've got some really good players. So yeah, do you know what? And I was saying to Ben the other day, I said, this season has been a really, really sort of open season, like tough season, because there's a lot of good teams in this league this year.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
Have you and Ben already got one eye on next season? And I suppose will the benefit of having a synthetic pitch, the income that it generates, obviously being back at home as well, do you reckon that'll give you greater depth next season and better prospects?
I think so. I think he's got to do. We're all excited to move back to the club. There's loads of stuff happening. We're having a new stadium sponsor. We've just agreed that with the local company. We've got a new kit sponsor, so that'll be announced in the next couple of days. A new 3-year deal with a new kit sponsor who's going to support the club on the shirts as well. So there's stuff in the background that we're doing to try and improve the club in. Also take that club to the next level by bringing partnerships in. It's really important, because we can't just rely on the money coming in from the pitch. The money coming into the pitch is obviously, which is great, which is what we didn't have before because we played on grass. But we can't just rely on that. We've got to make sure that we're still creating those partnerships with local businesses, local sponsors. I think that's really important, and we've recently taken on Sid Ahmed, who's the commercial manager at the club. So now we're getting back to the club. He's tasked with sort of building those partnerships in the local community, trying to improve gates, because when myself and Ben came to the club, I think there was roughly about 80. We used to get about 80, 90 watching, and then we actually grew it up to sort of 230, 240, and then all of a sudden we're not at the ground, so nobody's been at the ground for a while. So I'm just hoping the excitement is of the new facility opening sort of brings people back through the gate. But I've been down to the club obviously over the past months, and we've watched it progress, and to see what we've got at Chadderton now and what it was when I came to the club, it's night and day. It's a fantastic facility.
Yeah. Listen, we'll mention the facility at the end of the show, but I noticed on your post on X following the defeat at Lower Breck on the 20th of February, I think it was, you said, tough to take that tonight after that second half. I thought we deserved to win, but that's football when things aren't going for you. There's some things that are more important than the game, and for our player to be racially abused when leaving the pitch was disgusting. No room for racism. Now, it annoys me that we still have to talk about racism because it should have been stamped out years ago. Now, I assume we can't really mention names, but can you tell me more about what happened?
So there was a moment where one of our players, it was actually Mewis Babiria Bello at the time. He just scored. I think he received a little bit of abuse on the pitch, so he's then gone over to the linesman to say, did you see that, or this is what's happened. I don't know where. From all accounts, I don't think he was racially abused on the pitch, but it was some sort of abuse that he received. He's asked the linesman. The linesman flagged. Referees brought him over, and they've sin binned him. I think then Mewis has just lost his head in the moment, and the referees then pulled out. I think it was a double yellow. He might have even showed him a straight red. So as Mewis is walking off the pitch to the tunnel, so as he gets to the gate, and we have witnesses who see this, he sort of spits towards the floor. Now, apparently, from witnesses on the day, or what I'm told, one of the guys then shouts, "Oi, you this," and shouted a racist remark at him. So now, for me, I personally don't understand stuff like that, what comes out of people's mouths, because if you're gonna call somebody a name, why is that the first thing that you think about? Is the colour of the skin? Do you know what I mean? You could call them something else, you know what I mean, which has no relevance at all. Or we all know it goes on, abuse in grounds, and people have arguments when they're so close to the pitch or whatever. I get it, it goes on, but yeah, the colour of your skin shouldn't be the first thing that comes out of someone's mouth.
God, no. Absolutely not.
So you know what? He got sin bin, he got sent, he was walking down the tunnel, fair enough, but for him to receive abuse like that, I just thought, you know what, he just left a bad taste in the mouth, and rightfully so, Mewis was quite unhappy after the game.
Yeah, of course, he will have been. What was the outcome of that kind of post game? Was it reported to the local league?
It was reported. It's an ongoing investigation at the moment. So we reported it to the Liverpool FA, so effectively that's where it's at the moment. We've had various witnesses and videos and pictures and stuff that have been submitted to support. Obviously the allegations, so there was quite a lot of people in earshot of what was said, so from what I can gather, there's the same story coming out of a lot of people's mouths on to what was said.
You'll probably remember we had Pascal Chimbonda as our manager last season. And we suffered an almighty amount of racism. I couldn't believe how much and how often it was happening. Is this an isolated incident in terms of what you've suffered with Chadderton, or is it on a regular basis?
I think you still get stuff. Yeah. I wouldn't say it as directly sort of aimed like that, in with people around you, and the words that came out of the mouth, was just something you wouldn't even dream of saying. Do you know what I mean? But I still think you do get it, and I think subconsciously, I think you see it as well. Some people think they're not being racist, but they actually probably are. And it's not great to see, because, like you say, you shouldn't be discriminated by the colour of your skin. End of the day, we're all there to play football. We're all there to enjoy it. It should be an inclusive. It should be, football's an inclusive sport. Everybody should. And in this day and age, in 2025, we seem to be talking about it more than ever. Do you know what I mean? And
I've said before, I can't understand why we're still discussing it. Are we failing in education, or are we fooling ourselves into thinking that we'll ever eradicate racism?
I personally don't think we'll ever eradicate it. I don't. I think we'll try as best we can. Again, education. Is that the way forward? I just feel there's some people sort of that are built that way, and can you take them away from that? I'm not too sure. I mean, it's hard to see, really. Obviously, my best friend Ben, who's also joint manager, is also of a black background. You know what I mean? So it's hard for him to hear that when obviously one of his players is being racially abused as well, because that directly affects him. And we back at, in that moment. Lewis has done something wrong. Obviously, he's been sent off the pitch. That's fine, but what followed?
Call him what you want, but
call him. You know what? I don't obviously say the language on here, but you just call him whatever. But you don't have to go as low as using the racial stuff. So it's disappointing, and you know what? It's we've not been perfect ourselves this season. I'd say on the discipline side, which I mentioned before, with you only have to look at our disciplines not being great with regards to referees and stuff like that. But I think there's a mark if you step over that mark, and that's just stepping over it, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Given that this fan is representing Lower Breck as a fan, do you think there's some responsibility that falls on Lower Breck to either appropriate some kind of action against this fan, or to kind of teach him where he's wrong?
I think, if he's a Lower Breck fan, I'm sure there's been other sort of black players playing for Lower Breck in the past. Do you know? So that's what you've got to look at. Then is like you're actually supporting a team that could possibly have black players playing for them, and yet those are the words that the first thing that comes out of your mouth. So I would say as a club, and especially if it was our club, we would cascade the message down. We wouldn't tolerate any sort of racial abuse within the club, and if that was there, it certainly wouldn't be welcomed, and effectively, what's the way forward in this? Do we ban these people? Do we stop them coming in the ground again?
Or educate them again?
Already, yeah, but can these people be educated? I mean, this apparently was a grown man. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't a young boy. How far do we go to sort of educate? Or how old you have to be educated, if you like. It's just like you said. I think it's disappointing in this day and age. I think you said it yourself. Why are we still talking about this? But unfortunately, it rears its ugly head a lot.
Yeah, it does. So all we can do is just kind of continue to fight the good fight, really. To finish on a positive note, then, Carl, Skem played you at your place last season. The improvements that have been noticed from sort of visits beforehand were enormous. You obviously got this amazing clubhouse, and the corporate lounge is fantastic. There's a new lift what's been installed to make it fully accessible, as the clubhouse is upstairs. Fencing, increased parking's also been installed. You were awarded a £1 million grant from the Premier League, the FA, and Government's Football Foundation to install that 3G pitch, which is going to help women women's and girls football in Chadderton. But this will also benefit the men's first team and the 20 teams associated with the club. In your book, then, how important is the sustainability? How important is this to the sustainability of the club?
I think it's the future of the football club, and there's a few people to mention. Obviously, Bob Sopel and Glyn Mellor, the directors at the club, and obviously Bob's the chairman, who've worked tirelessly in the background to sort of make this happen for over 2.5 years now. And without those guys, these things don't happen. They've had a sort of vision of where they wanted to take the club, and the facility that they wanted to get at Chadderton Football Club. Because when myself and Ben came in, we always said we would not just manage the team, we would try and take the club forward off the field as well. So we've also done an awful lot working alongside Glenn and Bob to take this club forward off the field, and that includes taking on commercial managers, doing hospitality on match days, overlooking the pitch, accessing grants, to enable us to get this fund from the Football Foundation. There's an awful lot of work gone in the background, not just on the pitch as well. So, but we've always said the club has to become self-sustainable. And that is so important. We can't always rely for somebody to come in and give us a load of money to sort of pay players or whatever. That can't happen. The club has to become self-sustainable. It has to work to a budget. And obviously, if the club do well and we get more functions and the pitch is used more and it's used by all the local community as a hub, effectively. Then obviously that will affect then money coming into the club, sort of bigger budgets for the first team, better facilities. There's another plan going in for an extension to the clubhouse to the left, which then enhances the changing rooms further, and so there's a lot of plans for the future for the football club, which we owe a lot to Bob and Glyn for doing that, and for pushing forward with grant applications and having a vision, really.
A lot of the clubs are going down the same route, aren't they? We were at Exton Villa on last Friday, and the facility that they've got there now is exceptional.
Yeah, and I think we can train there. All our junior, we have 28, 30 junior teams now that will be able to train and play there. The women's teams, quite a lot of this money that we got was from the Lioness Fund off the back of the senior, the England women's team, and that's really important as well. We're actually in the process of creating a Chadderton Football Club Academy. So we're doing a BTEC Academy course, and we're soon to launch that, which we'll start taking people in from September. So there's a lot going on in the background. Obviously, we're trying our best to improve the club and thinking of ways of, but we, like you said, trying to compete with teams that do have more money. We're looking at other ways of bringing young players through the club, because we see that as the future, and like you said, we can't just rely on one man to come in and put funds into the club. It has to be run like a proper business and and budgeted each season, if you like.
Yeah, and listen, assuming you can't sneak back into the playoffs, what's the hopes for next season?
If we do sneak into the playoffs, then there's obviously an outside chance that we possibly could get promoted. If we did get promoted, it would be fun. It'd obviously be fantastic for the club to move into a new facility and move into a higher league. At this moment in time, we're not really thinking about that just because our recent form. So we're probably just thinking, concentrating especially on the Friday night game, and let's get past that. But the plans for next season will be to try and recruit as best we can, to try and retain our best players. We know that players are going to come and go. It happens at every club and every league. But we have a really good core of players, and hopefully we can keep the ones that we want and add some quality to it as well. And who knows, there could possibly be a couple of young lads coming through as well from our younger teams.
Yeah, and listen, you're certainly going to have a great infrastructure moving forward next season. So listen, it's been really good having you on the show. Best of luck for the rest of the season. Hope you sneak into the playoffs. And good luck against South Liverpool.
No problem. Thanks, guys. Cheers for having me.
All the best, Carl. Take care, mate. Bye now.
Take care. Cheers, mate. Bye.
Special shout out to all the businesses that support Skelmersdale United Football Club, Origin Sign Company, T&W Garners, 7PDS, Skem Express Cars 5005, Lease Car UK, RNB Auto Centre, SB Skills Solutions and Hey Presto Web Design. Thank you to everyone who donates to the club, supports our race nights, raffles and the lottery bonus ball scheme. And, of course, the last man standing. A special thanks to those who organise these fundraising events, especially the incredible Lee Davis and Lucas Berquist. To all who stand by us both on and off the field, we are truly grateful. If you wish to sponsor the show, please contact me at chairman.skemutdfc@gmail.com or call me on 07766 054 548. All proceeds will go to Skelmersdale United Football Club. Thank you for your unwavering support. Hello and welcome to the fourth and final part of the show, and a warm thank you to Carl Taylor. I think that's the terminology I'll use for coming onto the show. He's the joint manager, as we explained, of Chadderton. Really interesting chat with him there, and we obviously covered the controversial issue of racism as well, which, like we said, we shouldn't be speaking about.
No, we shouldn't, but it's evident that it's still rife within the game at all levels here, even down at the integrated level of football that we are. And it's such a shame as well, because it casts teams in such a poor light as well. You know, I'm sure Lower Breck will have been absolutely mortified to be associated with a fan fan in inverted commas, who's committed that kind of act.
And it's a difficult one, really, isn't it? Because who do you blame? You can't really blame the home club. You can't blame Lower Breck. There's nothing you can't put anything in place there to avoid that. That's just a random.
That's just a random attack, yeah. And all you can do is, make an example out of him afterwards, really. So, racism got to carry some lengthy ban, and if some proof that he's been on some kind of course or learning initiative to show the error of his ways.
Well, listen, I'm going to personally carry on banging the drum to stamp out all kinds of racism, because my son-in-law is black, of African origin, and of course my grandchildren are mixed race. There's no excuse for it. We've just got to stamp it out.
Yeah, my partner is mixed race, and her father is of ethnic origin as well. Luckily enough, they've never been on the receiving end of anything like that. But it doesn't matter. They shouldn't have to. No,
most definitely. So, we've come to that final part of the show, and we've come to the fixtures for the next week.
The expert analysis.
And the expert analysis, of course. I don't know where to start on this one, but maybe at the beginning.
Yes. So, the first game of the weekend is actually one that, by the time this show comes out, will already have been played, and that is at the Anfield Sports Community Centre, where Lower Breck take on West Didsbury and Chadderton. So Lower Breck in third, West Didsbury in fifth, both on really positive runs of form. Lower Breck 5 wins from 6 games. West Didsbury and Chadderton unbeaten in their last 3 games, and having scored at a canter, really, 13 goals in their last 6 games. It's an achievement not to be sniffed at. Where's your thoughts?
My thoughts on that one, I think, listen, that's going to be a tough game, that, because they both want to stamp their authority on that one, won't they? Make sure their credentials are fairly intact as we go through to this. I called it squeaky bum time. It's
not twitchy bum time this week.
I called it twitchy bum.
Yes, you did.
I actually like the terminology twitchy bum.
Good,
So
yes,
I'll go with twitchy bum, and I would say that given the home advantage, although it all depends on how many supporters West Didsbury bring, would it be a night game? Arguably it could be a draw, but I'm going to go for Lowbreck.
I'm going to go for Lower Breck as well.
Right, okay. Well,
so Chadderton versus South Liverpool. So we've obviously spoken to Carl Taylor on the show. His team have had to endure a really difficult run of form recently, which has included 5 straight losses. So on that basis, you'd be looking to see that South Liverpool would take a result there, but they themselves were the victims of 5 straight losses until this weekend just gone when they managed to beat Squires Gate.
yeah.
So with that in mind, Chadderton are a whole different prospect to Squires Gate, and I think Chadderton will win this one.
Yeah, listen, as Carl said before, they're going to take one game as it comes now, aren't they? So this game is pivotal towards the remaining 6 games, is it?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so listen, I'm going along with Chadderton, and best of luck to Carl.
Yeah, absolutely. Now then, the Saturday games, and we have 2 1 o'clock kickoffs, followed by a multitude of 3 o'clocks, and then we have a 6 o'clock on the Isle of Man. So we're going to start with the 1 o'clock kickoffs, and we're going to go to Charnock Richard, who take on Ramsbottom at Mozzie Park.
You know what? Normally I'd say that Ramsbottom are going to win this one, but it's they're just having that poor run of form, aren't they?
Really
three back-to-back defeats. It's
it's really unfortunate, but with each passing game, their title hopes become that little bit more distant.
But that said, Charnock Richard, they're not doing much better themselves.
Charnock Richard aren't doing much better themselves. No, I mean they've 2 straight losses. No win in their last 3 games, and only 1 win in their last 6. Conceding more goals than they're scoring. Despite having looked quite strong at one point. So with that in mind, I'm going to say that a draw.
I think the pressure will be a little bit off Ramsbottom now, in so much as that they won't be expecting to win the league now, will they?
I don't think so. No.
I think the aspiration is now purely with the playoffs, and I would imagine that they will be looking at what's in front of them in terms of what they're going to end up playing in the playoffs. Yeah,
and who they're going to end up playing. So as it stands right now, Ramsbottom and Lower Breck take the home fixtures in the playoffs, with Padiham and West Didsbury and Chadderton contesting the away ones. Now, if you are a Ramsbottom fan, I don't know who you'd quite prefer at this point, because they definitely look the weakest out of the 4 playoff teams right now. So it would be difficult whatever happens.
Difficult
really.
one to call.
So all the most important thing right now for Steve Wilkes and co is that they go into the they finish out the season as strong as what they possibly can do.
Listen, I go back to the year when we went toe to toe with Chester, and I think the wind sort of just disappears from your sails. You're going head to head with the top club, and then you lose it near the end of the season. Me head tells me Charnock are going to win this one, but I'm going to go. I'm in the hope that Ramsbottom are going to win. I'm going for a Ramsbottom win.
Yeah, I'd like Ramsbottom to win. It would be nice for them to keep the pressure on Bury, but I can't see anything more than a draw for them.
Listen, I'm looking forward to the playoffs. Anyway, whoever's in the playoffs, certainly looking forward to it. I think it should be fantastic, and there should be some huge crowds amongst them as well.
Definitely, we should go.
Yeah.
Anyway, the other 1 o'clock kickoff. is Lower Breck back in action against FC St Helens. Now, this one is going to be really logistically tough for Lower Breck, because having played on Thursday at 8 o'clock.
They're not even allowing themselves an extra 2 hours, are they?
No, it's barely 48 hours. Thursday, Friday night, Saturday. No, it's not. It's about 36, 35 hours turnaround they've got before they take on FC St Helens. So that's going to be really difficult for them. And FC St Helens had that wonderful comeback win against Chadderton earlier.
Ramsbottom, was it?
Ramsbottom, pardon me. Last weekend. So you'd hope that they carry a little bit of form going into that one.
I'm still going to go for Lower Breck.
Yeah, do you know what? So am I. Just.
So AFC Liverpool versus Longridge. I'm going to go for Longridge.
I'm also going to go for Longridge.
Bury versus Barnoldswick. I think. Listen, they're just going to coast it now, aren't they? They're just going to.
I think
each game is now like a a testimonial for them.
Yeah,
I don't think they'll be thinking that, by the way.
No, I don't think it's a testimonial. I think it's more mental fortitude and concentration to not get carried away with themselves and thinking, the league's all sewn up, because that's how you lose it. Barnoldswick have been on a really good run recently. I know they lost at the weekend to Pilks. They lost to Pilks. Yeah, but nonetheless, I think they'll give Bury a good game. So I will say a home win, but I hope Barnoldswick give a good account of themselves.
Yeah. Listen, if you can scramble your way through all these huge pieces of paper, it's like a copy of War and Peace, isn't it? There's that much paper around here.
It really is, yeah.
Listen, we need to find an easier way to do that. But listen, Cheadletown versus West Didsbury and Chilton. I'm going West Didsbury and Chilton.
I'm also going West Didsbury and Chilton on a really good run of late. I know they've had a couple of tough results, a month or two ago, but they look like they're hitting their stride, really. So, yeah, away win for me.
Did Glossop get back to winning ways?
No.
No?
And I say this with the greatest respect, because, we really like Richard Brodie, but his team just aren't finishing anybody off as of late, and they're slipping down the table. It'll not land them in any kind of trouble at all, but, they're not giving a great account of themselves of late. Abbey Hay, on a decent run of form. They're unbeaten in their last 4 games, middle of the park team, but nonetheless, giving a good account of themselves. I'm saying a draw here.
I'll go for Glossop.
Okay, fine. Earlham versus Cone. That's a home win for me, but
and for me as well. Earlham, yeah.
Remica versus Padiham, away win for
Padiham
me.
for that one,
yeah, Padiham all the way there. Prestwich Hayes versus Burscough.
I'm going to go for Burscough, because I think they're building up a head of steam. They've won back-to-back games.
They have, yeah. Prestwich Hayes, obviously had made a good account of themselves, and had a good result. At the weekend, but
I just think this will be a little bit too difficult for them.
I do too. Yeah. So Burscough for the win there. Stockport Town versus Pilks.
Stockport Town.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. And then the 6 o'clock kickoff. FC Isle of Man against Squires Gate. Home win for me.
Yeah, FC Isle of Man all day long. Yeah, listen, we need to speak more about FC Isle of Man. We haven't spoken about them for a while, have we? They seem to have.
We did. Yeah, they kind of dropped into middle of the park territory alongside FC St Helens and teams around there. So their playoff hopes are legitimately diminished as well. They I don't think they can mathematically get back in. If they can, it's a very tight one. We'll feature them again soon.
Listen, we'll go into the First Division North, because we're not playing this weekend. So we've got Ashton Athletic versus Bacup Borough.
AA versus BB.
Hoping to have Brent Peters on the show sometime soon.
The Bacup boss.
Yeah, the Bacup boss. In fact, the Bacup does everything. He actually wears a broom up his backside, and he brushes as he's going along. That man has done that many jobs at Bacup. It's unbelievable.
Amazing.
I'm going for Bacup Borough on that one.
I'm going to say draw here. So Ashton Athletic had a really good result of their own last weekend when they No, they didn't. They lost to Main Road, but I think we were expecting a draw. Oh God, that's put the cat amongst the pigeons now. Yeah, I'm gonna join you on an away win there. Yeah.
Right, Ashton Town versus Steeton. Now, given the fact that Ashton got beat by Route 1 Rovers, Steeton,
Much the same.
Much the same, yeah. I mean, listen, we played both of them, and they can beat you on the day.
They can, but Steeton have been also known to have their slip-ups as well. They lost to Garstang, so I'll say a draw.
Well, purely because I like Kevin, and I don't want him to win. I'm going for Ashton Town.
Okay, fine. Drawsden versus Daisy Hill. That's a Drawsden win for me, although I think the crowd will be massive.
Yeah, well, it'd be interesting to know whether this rolls over. It's one thing having a big kickoff and a big game
for your first game,
but the first game that they actually had didn't bring any bigger gates, did they, when they were away from home? So it'll be interesting to see who jumps on the bandwagon. Now, I think the attraction of going to Drawsden and knowing that there's going to be a big crowd there might entice a few of the Daisy Hill people that jumped on the bandwagon.
Yeah,
but I don't know. But listen, like you say, anyway, Drawsden all day long for that.
Yeah, me too. Garstang versus Exton Villa. That's Exton Villa's for me.
Yeah, it's got to be, hasn't it? Our slim chances of getting above Garstang still possible. Yeah, we got to go for Exton Villa on that one.
Yeah. Holker Old Boys versus Atherton LR.
It's a really difficult one.
It is really difficult because Atherton LR are slipping a little bit of late, and Holker Old Boys are themselves slipping, but are known to be really good away from home. That being said, I know full well that the fan coach that is taking Atherton LR up to Holker has sold out.
Right. Okay. They know how important the game is.
They do know how important the game is, so I think they'll be bringing a packed house up there, and I'm hoping very much that it will carry them through to some level of result. I'm not sure whether it will be a win, though. I will just plump for him because we like Davy Jones, so I will say an away win.
Yeah, I'm going for Alker. I'm going for Atherton LR as well. McGull versus AFC Blackpool, I think.
AFC Blackpool?
AFC Blackpool, yeah.
There you go.
Division 1 South, a couple of interesting games here. Yep. Asheville versus Stockport Georgians.
Yeah. How are we going to shape this one, really? It's a difficult one. Asheville are 8th. Stockport Georgians are 12th.
There's nothing between them at all,
There's
is there?
Very, very little between them at all. So it looks like it has the hallmarks of a draw.
They've got 10 points each in all of their last 6 games between each other. So yeah, it's got the whole. And I'm going for my first draw. So that's going to be a draw, yeah.
Barnton versus New Mills.
The Creative Hut Stadium.
Yeah, so New Mills were without a win in their last 5 games before they won 2-0. A part of the ground hop against Cheadle Heath Nomads, who were pushing for promotion, whereas. Barnton, as we said, they had that loss against Shawbury United, so I can only really see them going down from here. So that's going to be an away win for me.
I'm going for my second draw.
Alrighty then. Eccleshall versus Camel Laird. So Eccleshall did a really good account for themselves. Came from 2-0 down to draw with Winsford United.
And the form team.
And they are the form team. Yeah, unbeaten in their last 4 games, but have got 4 wins over the last 6. So I'd be minded to say a win for Eccleshall, though.
Yeah, I'm going Eccleshall as well.
Folymere versus Market Drayton Town.
Well, a few weeks ago I'd have said
Folymere.
I'd have said Market Drayton all day long, but Folymere, I don't know.
So for me, Market Drayton, just the 1 win in their last 6, which includes 4 losses, whereas Folymere haven't won in their last 4. Draw, I'm going to say.
I'm going to go for Market Drayton, and hope Dan does the business there.
Yeah, you'd like him to. Yeah.
Now this is there's 2 interesting fixtures now, but Runcorn Town versus Abbey Hulton United.
Yeah.
Now, if you listen to the experts on this, and Dan was one of them. He reckons that Abbey Hulton are building up a huge head of steam, and they are going to win the playoffs. Runcorn Town, they pulled off a fantastic victory against Stafford, didn't they?
Yeah, they did 5-1.
5-1. So it could either be a very, very tight game, or it could be a comfortable win for Abbey Hulton. I can't see Runcorn are going to win this one.
No.
But then I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But I'm going to go for Abbey Hulton.
I'm going to go for Abbey Hulton as well.
Stafford Town versus Alsager. Alsager seem to be...
Are they pumping themselves back up, do you think?
Well, they've had a draw and a win. So they've managed to salvage a little bit in the last couple of games.
Is it enough against Stafford?
I don't know. Well, Stafford, what are they?
They're 5th in the form table, 2nd in the division overall.
I mean, have they got much in terms of points? They've still got they've still got something to prove there, haven't they? So I don't know. What do you reckon?
I'm going to
go for Stafford as well.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a few of the fixtures during next week. Tuesday, the 11th of March, 7:45 kickoff. Charnock Richard versus Glossop North End.
Two teams who dropped in form, really, aren't they?
I'm going Glossop North End.
I'm going to say a draw.
Right, okay,
yeah. I might actually go and watch
I wouldn't be
that
surprised if it was.
I might actually go and watch that one. It's only 10 minutes from my house.
Yeah, there's a thought. I might do that myself. Where am I Tuesday? I can't remember where I am. Can't remember where I am now.
I don't think
so no chance of remembering where I'm going to be on Tuesday. So the big one, I say big one, it's the quarterfinals of the Staffordshire Senior Cup. Stafford Town versus Chasetown. I think that's going to be a Chasetown win myself.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. I think Stafford's, more of their core focus will be on the league and not the cup.
And that brings us to the Division 1 North, Wednesday the 12th of March, 7:45 kick-off again. AFC Blackpool versus Ashton Athletic.
Home win. Yeah,
AFC Blackpool all day long. Wednesday the 12th of March, it's the semi-final of the Lancashire Challenge Trophy, and it's Bacup Borough versus Padiham.
It's a local derby, that.
It's a local derby. There's a lot to play for there.
Padiham.
Yeah, there's going to be kicking each other off the park, I would imagine.
Yeah, that'll be a dirty game.
Yeah, dirty game on a dirty night. I think the weather forecast is good, so I don't think there's any chance of the game getting called off.
No.
But listen, I'm going to go Padiham as well, just purely based on the fact that there's a division between the two of them. Okay. Which leads us to the final fixture of the week, and that's Thursday, the 13th of March in the Premier Division. It's Lower Breck versus South Liverpool, and I'm going for Lower Breck.
I'm also going for Lower Breck. To be honest, yeah, I think almost all of these results, I think we've agreed on. So if this pans out into a draw between the pair of us, there won't be any surprise at all. I mean, you've won for last weekend. You've got 12 results to my 9. But
I'm just wondering whether we should have like an Ant and Deck challenge at the end of the season. Whoever. All boils down to what the challenge is, and everybody you win the lot.
Oh, bloody hell!
The winner takes all.
Winner takes all. Yeah.
Game of pool.
Game of well,
game of darts. Darts is in fashion now, isn't it? So let's have a game of darts. We could have a game of darts at Bearsco.
We could have a game of darts at Bearsco.
That could be the tiebreaker.
Can you imagine? It'll be the dullest set of darts ever. You're trying to get us down from 501. It'll be ones, twos, and you're missing the dartboard itself, really.
Yeah. Listen, we've covered all of that. We've given our expert analysis as per usual. We predicted the future. We're really good at doing that, I think. So we come to the final part of the show, and that question about what have we learned this week?
I have learned that fans can carry an awful lot of influence into how a team's direction is to be taken, either for the positive or for the negative, and we've seen both sides of it across this season. I have learned that there are fans out there who truly love their club more than just about anything else there, and the passion of fans at our level must never ever be understated or taken for granted. I've also learned that we've got an awful lot of an awful big job on our hands to try and eradicate racism from the game of football, even at our level where integration, between fans is so commonplace these days. And I think we've got still a lot of work to do to try and teach those the rights and wrongs.
In terms of what I've learned, I think looking at Tony Young, and I watched the video as it started to go viral. The normal rant and rave of a supporter, it really isn't sort of educationally backed up on the normal stage. But I think Tony hit the nail on the head. I respect his passion for the football club, and respect everything he said. I think it's difficult. Normally, you get a lot of critics that'll come out with a load of baloney and not back it up with statistics or know a great deal about what's going on behind the scenes. I think Tony's matched that intellect and intelligence and knowing what he's talking about. So huge kudos to him. Listen, feel sorry for the people that have taken over the football club and have got the mighty task of putting the pieces back together again. I feel sorry for them because we're in a similar predicament ourselves, and I think it's sort of all hands to the deck. People need to pull together in these times. So I'd like to think that a club that is probably one of the most famous non-league football clubs in non-league will continue to prosper. Well, eventually prosper. And get better, and fortunes change for them. So best of luck to them. Racism, we shouldn't be talking about it. I don't think we'll ever eradicate it. I think we just carry on educating people, picking them out of the crowd and sending them back to school, doing something positive. But I don't think we'll get anywhere with it in particular. That's a sad note to end on. But listen, I think it's been a fabulous show. Thank you to the guests, Tony, and thank you to Carl Taylor as well. Absolutely fabulous. Yes. Listen, I'll leave the final words as usual to AJ.
You've been listening to the Speaking Frankly football show with me, AJ Bajette, and my co-host, Mr. Frank Hughes. This podcast is available on Amazon Music and Spotify and most other streaming services, wherever you get your podcasts. Please remember to rate and review, as we do like to hear your feedback. Please also remember to subscribe so that you can be the first to know when a new episode of the Speaking Frankly football show has been released. We are also available on social media, on X and on Facebook, most prevalently under the banner Speaking Frankly. So please go and give us a like or a follow, and we will see you next week for the 19th episode of the Speaking Frankly football show. Bye bye for now.